Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Here we go, a shortened week on Spaced Out Radio. Tonight we have Steve Cambian coming on to talk UFOs. What is truth in ufology? That is the subject tonight. We're going to get into it with Steve and his Truthseekers show on YouTube. And we say hello to all of you. Remind you, this is a short week because we are all going to Las Vegas this week for the second annual Spaced Out Radio fan party. So let's kick things off with all of you. We got John P. Adventures in the gold medal position, Roger Murray with a silver, and Nightmare with a bronze medal tonight. Let's say hello to everybody in our chat rooms. We have Lee. Major Lee, how you doing? Major Lee is going to be signing autographs after the show. Light up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Roger Murray, Nightmare, Raymond L., Race Fan, good to see you all. Sugar Britches, Brown Dwarf, Rob UK, Non-Entity 257, welcome to the show. Hadley, thanks for coming on in. Hadley will be signing autographs after the show as well. Light up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Moody Mongol, welcome to SOR Chat. B. Baker, glad to see you here. Alien Addict, nice to have you here. Hi, Amy Collins. And Compleasert, I probably said that wrong. I apologize. Hi, Adenamug. Welcome to SOR Chat. Brandy Phillips, welcome. Roy Boy and Brown Dwarf, Luscious Jules, Kurt M. Nice to see you all. Hi, Spooky and Jenny. How you doing, hun? Good to see you. TMI, thanks for coming on in. My Flock, good to see you. As we continue on with our roll call tonight, we have Ozzy Sue and Donna, National Memorial, Wes H. Good to have you all here. Thank you for joining us. Let's continue on here with our roll call as we have... Let's see here. Laura Lobbs, Lee the Bee, and Allison Singh, thank you for coming on in. Susie B, we'll see you in just a few days in Vegas. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Desert Rat, nice to have you here. And Crystal J, Paranormal Highway, Chillgasm, Jessica thank you for joining us. Hi, Emmy Tong and Paranormal Highway. Good to see you both. As we continue on with our roll call tonight, Runa, nice to see you. Kathy Evans and Robert Lamoth. Thank you for joining us, everyone. And we continue on with our roll call here. There's Mark Torana. Welcome to SOR Chat. And Dave Walters. How you doing there, buddy? Moving on here, we got Nancy Thames. Thank you for coming on in. Hi, War Criminal and Ozzy. Oi, oi to you. Timothman, good to see you. As we continue on saying hello here, Glenn. John McEnroe, the pride of Wimbledon, is here. Look at that. Look at that. Hi, CS. Nice to see you. Dino Bravo. Mike Bothwell. Couple of good Canadian kids right there. Mac Geek, thank you for joining us. Hi, Wes H. and Space Cow. Good to see you both. Chris Teen, nice to have you back. And let's continue on here. We have Travis Woostus. How you doing there, buddy? Good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Little Timmy Senor, how you doing? Mark Sanchez, have you got the Hawaiian shirts packed for Vegas? That's what I need to know. And Super Crazy, good to see you. Beelzebrad, Dutch UFO, DD Galaxy, thank you for coming on in. River Dogma, can't wait to see you. Just another guy named Harry, welcome back. And let's see, who else do we have here? We have The Gong Show, good to see you. And Flying Monkeys, good to have you back here. Let's see here. Who else do we have? Scrolling on down. Derek Galloway, Stu Gerson, Pink Volo. Nice to see you all. Let's get the radio side started, shall we? That way we can let Bill WD-40 into the show tonight and lube us up for tonight, because you always want to go into a show nice and smooth. Deb from SAC, good to see you. And Jason, thanks for coming on in. Kim Inari. Coley, how you doing there, gorgeous? Are we seeing you in Vegas? Let me know. All right, continuing on here. Super Duke. Yeah, it's a bad one tonight. I'm sorry, Duke. It's best I got tonight. It's just the best. And Unknown Sender, welcome to SOR Chat. And Be the Arrow. Corey Joe, welcome to SOR Chat. Tony D, looking sweet in the UK this morning. Good morning to you. We are caught up. Don't forget, everyone, give us a thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways. If you're new, hit subscribe. Super Chat is open. Hi, Richard Elmore. And horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read the news wire. Check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a big show for you tonight as we go deep into the UFO world. Steve Cambian talks UFOs from a different perspective. Then in hour number 3, we have another great story from Among the Missing with Steve Stockton. Tim Senor is back for the UFO report. All right, let's do this thing. Steven Cambian is the host and creator of the YouTube channel Truthseekers. He's a guy who's into this subject for his own reasons, which we will hopefully find out tonight. But what he's not is someone who takes a lot of crap when it comes to what's happening in ufology. Some people call him a harsh critic. Some people call him words we really can't say on terrestrial radio. Others applaud him for his efforts to try and clean up what they call grifters, which are people taking advantage of the UFO narrative. What's the purpose? Why does he do it? We're going to find out soon enough as we bring in Steve Cambian here on Spaced Out Radio tonight. Steve, this is your first time here. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Oh, my pleasure. Greetings and salutations, everybody. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Steve, you have an interesting background when it comes to this subject, because there are a lot of people who absolutely follow every word that you say on your show. Others think you're very highly controversial. People who think that, you dig a deep hole to try and throw the grifters and the garbage out. I mean, how did you form your show in ufology? Did you expect it to be this controversial as it is?
No. In fact, when I first started, I had a different show called The Midnight Hour, which is kind of funny because I used to own the night, Dave Scott. He took that from me. No, he didn't. But, I had the same kind of a deal going, like a midnight show and dark and mysterious subjects. And honestly, I started the show to give myself a passport into some of the world's leading experts in UFOs and aliens so that I could try to solve my own personal mystery. And I was sure naively that, in a few short months, I'd talk to all these experts and then I would know exactly what my experience was about and if there was truth to these things. And then as time went on, I started to get a little more skeptical because I started to dig into some of the guests and their claims. And as the show went on, it got more and more skeptical. And eventually we sort of rebranded to Truthseekers and went from an audio podcast as the Midnight Hour into Truthseekers, which is the show we do today. Truthseeker show on YouTube Just put Truthseeker Show in the YouTube search bar. You'll find us. And I began to feel like there needed to be somebody that would check the claims of some of these people. Because, one of the best examples I could give you is Charles Hall, who is the originator of the tall white alien myth. This guy's been around for 10 years or more, wrote a lot of books, sold a lot of books, and he's been interviewed by virtually everybody who has some kind of paranormal or show about UFOs. And not one of those people actually checked into his military claims. And if you did, you would find out that he's never been in the Air Force, according to the National Personnel Records Center. So his whole story begins with, I was on this Air Force base when I was in the Air Force and met these aliens. And it turns out he was never in the Air Force. So his whole story falls apart. And I began to feel horrified by these people, all the people who have interviewed him before. Like, why didn't you check? It's not, it seemed like everybody's got this game where they just sort of play along and let the guy talk, and nobody's checking work histories that are claimed. Nobody's checking educations that are claimed. Nobody's checking military service that was claimed. Now, some of that, I'll admit, is probably a learning curve. I had to learn to do those things. But once I did, I was horrified. Like, wait a minute, this guy's working all these UFO conventions, telling these stories about these aliens he met in the Air Force, but he was never in the Air Force. So I began to feel like there needed to be somebody to check, just fact check, basic fact checking. And I think we could both agree that a lot of people don't do any of that fact checking. It just becomes, story time. And I'm not here for that.
Right. But, a lot of people out there, I think, when they get started in podcasting or they get started on a YouTube channel, they go out there trying to, like, it's a thrill to interview some big names. They get a big name that maybe they've heard on Coast to Coast AM, or they've heard, over the years, and they get excited. They get a little starstruck. It's like meeting your favorite athlete or your favorite movie star.
Sure. But when it becomes a proven pattern, Mr. Scott, where you can say, I can listen to 10 interviews that this guy did, and he let 10 people go on obviously false claims, at some point, and I suppose the other issue is, and I fully acknowledge this, that a lot of people are just here to be entertained. And that's not what I really wanted. I wanted to use my microphone and my webcam as a passport to get to some of these experts. And I was sure if I just got to these experts, because I've been, there's people that have been studying this thing for 20, 30, 40 years, and I have been fortunate. I got to interview some people like Stanton Friedman and others that I thought were really credible, but others, I just think, it's you mentioned the word grift. Like, if, for all of the $1 billion industry that UFOs is, and let's be clear, it's a $1 billion industry. There's people don't have smoking gun evidence or proof. So we're always chasing that carrot with this tantalizing maybe proof. It's lacking. And by the way, I have no problem with people making money too. A lot of people attack me like, oh, these people are just trying to earn a living. Well, you can earn a living without lying to people. And if you want, Alice in Wonderland, but with aliens as story time, to just be entertained, good for you. But I think there's a growing number of people who are sick of the grifts. And we've all seen people making huge sums of money with absolutely garbage, fake things, hoaxes. Alien Autopsy made millions of dollars. The Roswell slides made hundreds of thousands of dollars. There's many, many more. TTSA collected $2 million, promised a spaceship. They didn't do anything, and it just goes on and on and on. We've got Stephen Greer. He once ran a charity where he collected $500,000 to build a free energy device. He never built a free energy device. Nobody knows what happened to that money. And now he just collected $600,000+ to make a film about free energy. So that's $1.1 million from a man who has been caught lying 100 times. He claimed that he briefed all the presidents since Ronald Reagan, but nobody's ever heard of him. We checked, So if you want Storytime Hour, I get that, you know. I almost missed the time when I would just watch these documentaries and things like innocently, like, wow, this is pretty interesting, you know.
See,
But when
I can't watch documentaries. I
yeah, but
can't.
when you peel back these layers of deception, and I have really, we've grown quite a following because people are seeing that we're spotting these patterns of the way that these. Let's be clear, a lot of these hoaxes and things use elements of stage magic. This is an illusion. They're giving you the illusion of many things. You know, Greer, for example, gives you the illusion that he's got all kinds of government contacts and he's in on a lot of the secrets. But when you peel back the layers of deception, it's not there. He has no proof that he's in Pentagon meetings in the basement of the Pentagon, or that several members of his staff got assassinated, or that somebody offered him $5 billion to stop talking about UFOs, or that he briefed every sitting U.S. president since Ronald Reagan. You know, people need to know that you can check these things, and they have to embolden themselves. If you really want to know if that person is telling the truth, get on the phone. Nobody does it. So I started doing things like with Greer. We called all the archivists of the presidential libraries, because I found out that presidents, especially, every minute of their day is logged. So if they have a meeting with somebody, there's a mention of that meeting. They might not say what the meeting, you know, what they talked about, but there's a mention of the meeting. And wouldn't you know, there's no mention of any meetings with Stephen Greer, with Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton, George Bush Jr., or Obama. We even reached out to Trump and Pence, who he said he briefed. And both of their media spokespersons gave us on the record comments that they don't even know who that man is. So why should he be allowed to make millions of dollars lying to people like that? I think that's wrong. And I think that the consuming public there should be a counterpoint. If you're going to have all these liars out there, there should be somebody doing some fact checking, you know, and that's what we do.
We're going to go hard on this in the next half hour, you know, because I want to get into your head a little bit. I want to know what makes you tick, because, you know, I agree that there has to be a lot more pushing than what's going on right now. And we'll get into that. But first, why did you get into this? What happened to you? What did you see that brought you into the UFO world?
Yeah, I once told a whole story, and it's actually a very quick story. And most of me decided to keep my personal experience personal. But what I can tell you is that when I was 10 years old, I saw what can only be described as some sort of elliptical aircraft. It was just above the trees. It was around twilight, you know, turning dark. And I was in the woods near my parents' cottage in New Jersey, which coincidentally was just a few miles from Fort Dix Army Base and McGuire Air Force Base. And we as kids used to go in the woods around the base and play. And, you know, there's a creek and you go fishing in the fishing holes or whatever. And I was always in those woods. And one time when I was in those woods, I saw a big shadow coming towards me in the sky. And remember, it was just turning dark. And just above the treetops is this elliptical, dull metal gray craft. And I didn't see, it was so close, Dave, that I could throw a rock and hit it. It was just above the tree lines. And this was a sort of a new growth forest. It wasn't, you know, the trees weren't that big. I mean, this thing was really low, I thought, and I'd never seen anything like it. And my father was an aviation guy. He was an aircraft mechanic for a time in the Navy. So I was familiar with most aircraft, and we went to the McGuire Air Force Base air shows every year, and I saw, you know, what we had. So as a 10-year-old boy, I'm seeing this thing, and it was so quick. You know, the whole experience was under 5 minutes. But I also felt electricity in the air, and I saw animals running towards me out of the path of this thing. In other words, the craft was coming over, and I'm standing here, and the craft is coming my way. I see animals running out of the forest, you know, and completely baffled as to what I'm seeing, because it was round or elliptical. And I also felt this intense electricity in the air, like things were standing up, like the hair on the back of the hair on my arms was standing up, like The only thing I can compare it to is if you've ever been around a Van de Graaff generator, which puts electrostatic energy in the air. And then I also smelled some strange smell that I remembered for years. And I was 10 years old. I didn't know what the smell that I smelled was. Years later in a high school chemistry class, I would find out that what I smelled was ozone. So putting together the pieces, what I saw could have been some sort of experimental craft that used some sort of electrogravitic propulsion or some kind of electrical power to power the thing. And as quick as it was there, it just glided over me completely silent. And then it shot off and disappeared in an instant. And that was my experience. And I, after that, became completely obsessed. I would ride my bicycle to the other libraries because my home library only had like one book about UFOs. So then I got friendly with the librarians, and they would check which libraries had any books about UFOs. And I'd ride my bicycle in the city miles and miles to get whatever books I could to try to learn. But I never really, solved my own personal mystery to this day. Eventually, as I got a little bit older and became a teenager, girls came into the picture and other things, and I just started to put it away. I compartmentalized that mystery. And but years later, I would become interested again and start the show thinking, I went back there, by the way. I went back to those woods and sort of relived my own experience right before I started the Midnight Hour show and sort of said, this has been bothering me my whole life. I just want to know what I saw. And you hear many people that have had these experiences say those things. And, quite honestly, I felt betrayed by all the scammers and liars and grifters that were pushing false information because I came here to figure out what it is that I saw. And yeah, there have been some interesting things happen. Like I found out later that there is an Air Force guy that swears that an alien was killed on McGuire Air Force Base, shot and killed. It's a famous case just a few years before my experience. And so I always thought that must have been aliens what I saw. And then Bob Lazar came out when I got a little older. And I thought Bob Lazar's story confirmed for me that they had some sort of alien spacecraft. Maybe they were testing it off the base. But that doesn't make sense because McGuire is sort of a logistical base. During Desert Storm and Desert Shield, they would ship all the food and the ammunition to the soldiers in Iraq and Kuwait. That's the kind of thing they do. They don't have like super advanced aircraft or fighters there. They have trainer. And when I was a kid, they had F-4 Phantoms as just jet trainers for people. So, whatever it is that I saw led me down this rabbit hole. And I both love that day of my life and those few minutes that changed my life, and I hate it as well.
See, this is where I find something very, very similar because I've never heard your story. Out of all the times I've watched your show, I usually, like a host, you never want to make the story about you or the show.
Yeah. I don't even talk about it on my show. I just say I'm an experiencer and I saw something when I was a kid. I don't really, because it's not like a story to build anything. Like I can't make I can't. It's a 5-minute story.
Well, I mean, you could be creative in like an elementary school, make a diorama about it, show us.
Yeah, I could milk it, but I decided I did tell a really longer version of the story once on my show. And then at some point, somebody was accusing me of making parts of it up or like whatever with no evidence, of course. They're just like, yeah. So I took it down and I said, I'm just going to keep my personal experience to myself because it was personal to me.
Did you have missing time?
No, I fully account for the time. I have considered doing a hypnotic regression to try to recall more details, but I'm hesitant to do that because that's a kind of a shaky subject over whether you're going to get real memories or artificially, induced memories somehow. The memory is a strange thing, so I've never done a regression. I just sort of,
the one thing that I liked about what you were saying is that you got into this for yourself. I mean, that's the selfish.
Yeah, it's very selfish. Yeah.
And I'm the same way. Like Spaced Out Radio, as much as we've made this into a terrestrial radio show and we're having, minimal, a little bit of success with YouTube and everything like that and the other formats, in the end,
A little bit of success. You're beating me by far. And I don't think you were before. So I want to know how you did it. And so I could do it too. Yeah.
Well,
but congratulations. I'm never one to be like a, nasty about that. I did notice though, like I didn't know that like I try to tune into your show, a bunch of different shows, and every once in a while I would check in and go, wow, you got an awful lot of live viewers. Good for him, and I'm happy for your success because if you could do it, so could I. So could everybody.
The point that I'm getting at is this. In the end, all of us do this because we had something or we saw something. Very few are actually doing it, Steve, because they love the subject so much. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether you're somebody with 500 followers on YouTube or 1 million followers on YouTube. The majority of people out there have had an experience that they are being very, very selfish about, which, and I use the word selfish in a good way, because we want to know what happened to us. And, when you start to hear a lot of these stories, like, for instance, I was never a fan of the To the Stars Academy. Never a fan. And
I called them out pretty early. I thought it was a CIA threat operation to get funding, and it turns out, what people need to understand about TTSA is they had a combined CIA experience. If you add up all the years that the guys that were involved with TTSA, I think it was over 100 years of CIA experience. And you'll excuse me if I don't trust the CIA to give me the truth about aliens and UFOs. That's not their job. Truth is not their job.
And if you look at it, and this is what I've been telling our audience recently, there's a huge difference, Steve, between what we hear about this UAP stuff and UFOs. And what I've learned is UAP is all man-made. That's why they're seeking it. It's easy to seek it. Whereas UFOs, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. At least the people up front. It's the people in behind the scenes that we don't hear from that are going after it. It's like the joke of NASA coming out with this this panel that they're going to do about UFOs. You've known for 60 years. You've known.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think it was you who started me off on this to say I refuse to use that word UAP. That's a CIA word for UFO, so I'm not going to use that word anymore. I grew up with UFO. It's UFO. I don't understand the change, but you're right. It may be that a lot of the UAP stuff that's being pushed as man-made terrestrial objects. I just saw on Twitter that somebody is posting around this wonderful graphic of a new concept aircraft being developed, and it is 100% without any control surfaces. And we can just add up, go through the last few years. How many times have we heard this thing had no control surfaces? So we have DARPA, the X-65, and this is great because we're developing the fly without traditional exterior moving flight controls. It received its official designation. Crane aims to build an experimental uncrewed aircraft that maneuvers by controlling the airflow around it. And this is just a military aircraft. And these people have been saying it had no control surfaces for years now. Well, I think that maybe, just maybe, a lot of this stuff, a great deal of it is experimental.
You froze up there, Steve. You froze up on your YouTube, but that's okay. We're going to get you right back here momentarily as we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour here on Spaced Out Radio. Steve Cambian from the Truthseekers YouTube channel. Love him or hate him, he's got an opinion of what we want to know on UFOs here on Spaced Out Radio, and for our radio audience listening in, as we will be right back on this show with the second half hour with Steven Cambian from Truthseekers. Stay tuned. More UFO chatter. What's the ugly side of ufology that he's trying to clean up? We'll be right back. You froze up there for about 30 seconds. So, hold on. Did I mute you? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I wasn't aware. I went to another window to look up that thing. It's okay. I apologize. It's fine. that were in black. What are those, like a few minute breaks?
Yeah, we got 5 minutes at the bottom and 6
cool.
at the top.
Must be nice.
Hey, 1 second. One of your listeners, Mario, he's calling me a grifter and everything. Mario, I just want to tell you, man, I'm a business. Okay, I am a business, man. I have a terrestrial radio show that broadcasts these topics. So because I'm a business, no offense, dude, I am about the money. I have no problem admitting that. I am about making money off of business because you don't get into business for doing things for free.
Yeah, and also I just wanted to say that, like, I get that a lot of people treat it, what they do, as a business. For me, it's a little more of a personal crusade. And though I am monetized, I have made a commitment to my listeners that I won't, like, I don't pay my bills from the show, and I don't. The only thing I use the show money for is to support the show, to pay for software, Google Drive, whatever. But some people got to pay their bills, so it is what it is.
I'm lucky to make a credit card payment every month. That's what it does. Pays my credit card every month. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, at this level that you and I are at, we're not the people making millions of dollars here that people should be so concerned with. And by the way, if somebody's doing 5 or 6 shows a week, I would not begrudge them a little bit of money for that effort. And I've been trying to, like, actively not. I used to focus on people that I thought were taking money or making money, and they're not doing interviews right or whatever. I just can't do that anymore. I can't control what other people do. It's beyond my control. All I can do is say, this is the way I'm going to do it, and disagree with the way they do it respectfully if I have to disagree with them.
But I look at the whole money aspect, because it is an important part of the topic. If you were peddling BS out there, okay, and let's say, okay, doesn't matter who it is. If you're peddling BS out there just to try and rip people off, I don't like that. And you've been going after the blue chickens for a while.
Well, what's funny is that people will meet me halfway, and a lot of people will go, well, yeah, David Wilcock, Corey Good, those guys are definitely grifters, but they don't realize that some of their other heroes are just as bad, like Linda Moulton Howe or Stephen Greer or whatever. And but I get that. Some of these guys they're super easy to show what they're doing, to show, that it's all about the money. Corey Good, especially, this guy is so focused on every dollar and trying to squeeze every dollar he can out of the UFO community, and it's great. I just think it's a great story too. 8 years the guy spent running around telling everybody about his Buck Rogers science fiction space stories. And then in a sworn deposition where he was under oath, he had to admit he's never been to space. So kind of hard to be a secret space program insider when you've never actually been to space.
And I agree. But the point that I'm getting, like, for me, I'm not making, yes, we take super chats. People want to donate. They're more than welcome to donate.
Yeah, good for Cat Chaser. Come on over to my channel with super chats like that. Praise the cash, Dave Scott.
Well, and thank you.
Well, the other thing is, if people, I've had people attack me, Dave Scott, for accepting, the super chats or whatever. And I say, like, if people can make millions of dollars selling people lies, why can't I make a little bit of money for my time, my effort, my equipment, my electricity, the space in my home? That I have an entire room dedicated to this in my home.
Yeah,
more than that, because now I have 2 rooms dedicated to this. So we have a pre-production room. Now we have a set room here that I'm trying to build. So,
I'm sitting in a $30,000 studio. That if I didn't have a silent business partner, I could have never afforded it.
Well, good for you. God bless you. Yeah.
And thank God I had an angel investor. And now what we're trying to do is we are trying to, like, for the money aspect of everything, our next goal is to figure out how can we get advertisers. I'm not looking to make money off of ufology, right? I'm not that's not it. It's about advertising for our radio program that our radio stations love. That's what we're
Yeah, I
doing.
mean, I actually I could help you out with that because I have a lot of offers that I've turned down.
Hold
But
on, Steve. Here we go.
yeah, sure.
Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. I want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight. Steven Cambian is our guest, has a YouTube channel called Truthseekers, where we want to get into the darker side of ufology. And this is a man who carries a big shovel and is digging it on up. Steve, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio.
Yeah, glad to be here.
All right. Let's get into the darker side of ufology, because you are somebody who has, just a recap from the first half hour, you came in wanting to learn about your experience. You were very selfish and in a good way in trying to figure out what happened to you. What was it that you saw in the forest that day as a 10-year-old? And now, as you have progressed over the years and you've matured in your own research, and I'm assuming you got a good team behind you, you have learned that a lot of these people who have been allegedly telling the truth aren't as truthful as you thought they were.
To say the least. Yeah.
And this is going to put you on a hot seat of trying to be, and I'm going to call it like a police officer of ufology.
Yeah, I've heard that analogy, which I don't like, because I'm not a law enforcement officer and I'm not a lawyer. All we can really do is show people. Generally, I basically approach a lot of stories like, let's peel back some of these layers of deception if they exist and reveal them. And yeah, people have gotten very angry with me. I've had people threaten my family, and these guys make a ton of money doing this. And I have literally have sources that work for some of these big names that have said that there's they're saying I'm bad for business. And if somebody fact checking you is so bad for business, then maybe you're in the wrong business. I just think that people deserve to know, especially with some of the stuff that goes on. There are people, and people know who I'm talking about. I don't even need to name names, but there are people who are selling completely and totally fake alien pictures, like from a video game cover, and claiming that they're pictures of real aliens, making tens of thousands of dollars, charging $150 for an autograph at a UFO convention. I think that is ridiculous, and those people should be stamped out, and they shouldn't be allowed to continue. And people make mistakes. We all have. Sometimes things might get by people or whatever, but when it becomes provable that it's a pattern, in that person's case, they did it 3 separate times using completely fake pictures. We don't need that here. It doesn't help anything except their wallets and their pocketbooks, I suppose, and their bank accounts.
When it comes to people, okay, that every day we see on Facebook or other social media outposts or TikTok or whatever, where we see people who are talking about their extraordinary experiences that we've had. You and I have had this discussion back on your show about 6-7 weeks ago in regards to anecdotal evidence. A story is a story. Anybody can make up a story, but I tend to believe, and maybe it's the goodness of my heart or whatever that I want to believe, but I tend to believe, Steve, that the majority of people out there who have an experience, much like you have or I have, we can tell the story. We could tell what we saw, but for some reason, it's not acceptable to use anecdotal stories in ufology anymore? Is it because we're tired of the stories, or is it because that the stories are unprovable?
I think it's a little bit of both, and that becomes the tantalizing part of it. When you have somebody giving, and by the way, I don't discount convincing testimony. I just think that it's all too common that that's all we get. And you know, there was a time when you needed a little more evidence, especially to sell a story. But now it just becomes acceptable through people like Corey Good telling stories for 8 years with no evidence, that people have come to expect that it's now rare when evidence accompanies a story that's being sold and bandied about. And now we see these, you know, there's a big narrative now with UFO crash retrievals. And unfortunately, a lot of the stories that those myths are based on are being blown out of the water as completely fake now. You know, sometimes it takes forever for somebody to actually dig in and find out. You know, this Trinity UFO story, Jacques Vallée and you know, his co-author, they didn't do proper research, and they sold that story as a true story. Some other competent researcher comes along and blows it out of the water as fake, and people are getting tired of the you know, people are getting tired of the lack of research. And then people sort of you know, like these people selling this book, like they haven't made a statement and it's pretty clear that the whole story was faked. Now then the whole thing was a hoax. You've already sold the book, sold how many copies? You can at least make a statement about it. And you know, we're supposed to believe that they just didn't do enough research. But I would suggest to you and to everyone within the sound of my voice that some people are not doing research intentionally, because we get many stories in ufology work by lie by omission. You know, the Bob Lazar story works if you just leave out all the overwhelming mountain of evidence that he never worked at Area 51. His education is fake. He was never a real scientist. He's a convicted pimp, bankrupt liar. And all you have to do to make Bob Lazar's story work is leave out all that evidence that would convince most rational and reasonable people that he's a con artist and a fraud and not a real scientist.
But isn't it, you know, the romance of the Bob Lazar story that keeps
Oh yeah,
it
I grew
going?
up with it. If I could pick one story, Dave Scott, to be true, it would be that one. I followed that thing so intensely. I was on early pre-internet bulletin board systems trying to download text files of interviews with Bob Lazar, and like, you know, and I followed that story intensely. And you know, I was once very friendly with Jeremy Corbell, and he made me a lot of promises, and I gave him a lot of research before that documentary garbage piece that he did, which was really not a documentary. It was a pro Bob Lazar fluff piece. And he left out everything. And that's why the lie works. You can sell the lie, and it's like, are you really lying, or are you just lying by omission? A lot of these people think that lying by omission somehow makes it better. If Dave Scott, if you're selling a story, any story, and you're making millions of dollars, and there exists a pile of evidence to prove that the story is fake, and you don't address it at all, that's intentional. You are intentionally avoiding evidence to sell that story. And that's how many of these things work, you know. Just leave out the parts that seem to prove that the story is not true. The same goes for Lou Elizondo. You know, the narrative that we were fed in the New York Times is completely and totally false. The man never ran any official Pentagon anything. You know, it was an activity, which is kind of like me working for the Pentagon, you know, doing computers, and in my spare time, I'm going to look into UFOs. That's all he did, and great for him, but that's not the story we were fed about him running a $22 million program. The other way that the grift works is, and these stories take legs, is that people embellish. You know, Elizondo went from some guy who was a desk jockey at the Pentagon, who had no official involvement in anything related to UFOs for the government, to suddenly he ran a $22 million government program to study UFOs. No, he did not. And he should not be able to profit from that false narrative. But it's taken even the mainstream media like years to come around and say, oh, everything in that New York Times article was likely fabricated, false, or embellished out the wazoo, and these are how these things work. Like I said before, there's these layers of deception. We always have to be conscious of the fact that many of these people are profit driven. It's very clear. Elizondo is so concerned with TV deals and book deals. He's not here for the truth. He's here for the paycheck. He's here for the payout, and that's my view.
I want to ask you a couple questions. I apologize for cutting you off.
Sure.
Okay?
No, go ahead.
You use the word liar a lot. Okay, that's a very strong term for a lot of people. What do you mean by liar? Who's lying? What is the big lie in Steve Cambian's world?
Well, I think the big lie is that many of these so-called, I call them UFO celebrities, claim to be some kind of warriors of truth while they're doing nothing but deceiving people. And we can show chapter and verse of how these people operate. Like in the case of Lou Elizondo, he was the primary source for that New York Times article. So who lied? Somebody had to lie to the New York Times or embellish out the wazoo about what he actually did working for the government. Somebody gave those reporters false information. One of them even later claimed that they were misled. Who misled them? Lou Elizondo was the primary source for the story. So when I say liar, whether it's a lie by omission or a massive embellishment or twisting facts, was there a $22 million program? Sure, but it wasn't just to study UFOs. It was to study werewolves at Skinwalker Ranch too, and all kinds of wackadoo stuff. They leave that out of the article. Another lie by omission so that people would focus on the UFOs. Sometimes these lies can be lie by omission. Sometimes they can be forgetting to include important facts that people should hear. Would Lou Elizondo have gotten the traction he got if he just said, I worked at the Pentagon and in an unofficial capacity with no funding, I would look into UFOs in my spare time at work? I don't think so.
Right. Okay. The fact, though, that the late Harry Reid came out and stated that he was the one who got the $22 million and that Elizondo did run that program.
No, he didn't run that program, not the $22 million program, and that's established fact. The $22 million went to Bob Bigelow to study his own ranch, which is another kind of a scam, if you ask me, because for $22 million of taxpayer-funded money, we paid some ranch owner to investigate his own ranch. And there's on the record statements of people who worked there that they used to get drunk and fax him fake stories to keep him happy. That's an entire scam in and of itself. And that was a sweetheart deal that Senator Harry Reid somehow managed to procure $22 million for his longtime campaign donator, Bob Bigelow. And, we never got anything for that. We got a bunch of text reports of nonsense, dino beavers, werewolves, a lot of stories, no evidence, no proof, nothing. So,
okay.
If I don't take, the senator's word for it, it just, and he's not here to, I hate to speak ill of the dead, but, he's not here and he would never answer questions about that letter or clarify that letter. So people can hold that up all they want. All the other evidence seems to indicate that by the time Lou Elizondo got involved, the $22 million was gone. The program was ended. And that was OSAP, not ATIP, a different thing. And by Lou Elizondo's own admission, he had no involvement in OSAP at all. So therefore, he had no $22 million. And the Pentagon has confirmed that he didn't run any official program.
I want to ask you because I do have a lot of things that I want to ask you tonight, and we want to try and get it all in. And I know we have a lot of audience questions starting to pop up as well, which we'll get to in hour 2. You mentioned the word proof. This is a bone of contention for me, okay? Because when I came into the industry back in 2014. I thought I knew what proof was. I don't know what proof is today. Now, I have talked to scientists, I've talked to experiencers, and I've talked to a lot of people that you've talked to. I mean, it's a small group. It's a small group that if you want to talk behind the scenes, people will talk. A lot of people don't want to come on the air, but they will talk to you on a phone call. They like to do
off
it
the record. I get a lot of that. Yeah.
And the question that I'm asking you is, what is proof today? Because I keep hearing people, we want proof. Give us empirical proof. Give us that hammer us some real proof. What is it anymore? All videos can be CGI'd and edited to do whatever they want today. Audio, I mean, you're an audio guy. I'm sort of an audio guy. Okay, we can fudge audio like anything very simply today. I've been doing that, since I learned radio back in college. So what is proof anymore? We don't trust the cell phone. We don't trust the people who get an orb in the sky. We just don't prove anything.
Yeah, I think we can trust video if it's analyzed by a qualified person. But the problem is that we have this scammer squad comes in and says, this person analyzed the video and it's a real object. And then we find out that the person who analyzed the video is a self-professed image analyst with a fake education. There are standards of evidence, I think. And, like, for example, if two people witness the same craft and they're both telling the same story, that's a little more convincing as far as standards of evidence than one person telling the story with no other corroborating witnesses. There is video, there is audio, there's document proof of many things. One of the rabbit holes that I really enjoy is government documents about UFOs, because there's a vast history that shows that the government has been heavily interested, involved in, and actively investigating UFOs for decades. We just don't get the truth out of them. We get propaganda.
Very true. We get propaganda from the government, and I think that's fair. I mean, that is what we are seeing. We've seen a waste of time with these hearings that have gone on, which I think are garbage. That's
they're nothing burgers. Yeah.
Time. But for the average person out there, Steve, who has seen a UFO, okay, or has had the ultimate experience, or seen a Bigfoot or whatever, they're trying to figure it out for themselves. What is something that they can do to prove the proof?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, in my own case, all I have is a story too. So, but I'm not out here making millions of dollars off of my story and then coming up with new stories on top of the old story. And, I think a lot of the problem that I have is just the basic fact checking that doesn't get done. We've got a lot of people that just totally faked military backgrounds, faked education. We just should not accept stories from people that are willing to fake their background, their education, their military experience that doesn't exist. For a while, Navy SEALs got popular because of SEAL Team 6. And you may recall there was all kinds of Navy SEALs coming out of nowhere talking about UFOs and secret space garbage. And it turns out that most of those Navy SEALs weren't really Navy SEALs. It's easy to check. But people like Kerry Cassidy and other scammers, they make a lot of money just sort of sitting next to these people telling these fantastical fairy tales. And, you talk about standards of evidence and proof. Well, why don't we begin with, if the guy's story starts with when I was in the military, that we check their military credentials. And then if it turns out they're lying, then we confront them with a question about that. We've got the Dr. Reed, that clown just made a resurgence on Jimmy Church and other places, telling his stories. This guy was a complete and total fraud. Like his work education was fake. His work history was fake. His educational claimed degrees were all fake. And, it is tedious to do these fact checkings. But if you're going to interview the guy and his story starts with, I have master's degrees in psychology, well, call the school and check that he has these master's degrees. And, I get that, proof is sort of hard to define for some people, and everybody has different standards. Like what you may accept as proof, I may still say is too light, and there needs to be more corroboration or more, something more physical. But when we get into the fact that so many people are interviewing complete and total frauds with the Cinderella fairy tale hour, but with UFOs, if you're going to make that money sitting there interviewing the person, check their education, check their credentials, and then ask them why they lied about their education. If somebody's willing to lie about that, then maybe they're willing to lie about aliens to make some cash too,
No, I get that, and I can appreciate where you're coming from with that. I mean, there just seems to be so many different people who have come out of the woodwork, as we only got about 3.5 minutes before we got to go to break at the top of the hour. Steven Cambian is our guest tonight. There's so many people since 2017 that have come out of the woodwork in regards to what they're about, what they know, and they've seemed to gain a lot of quick confidants in this field. I mean, do you think that there is a major play going on with agencies about throwing around false stories and narratives in order to try and throw the UFO topic back under the carpet, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, there's, I just think that some care should be taken to analyze the claims being made and fact check those claims being made. And if everyone actively did that, half of these stories would disappear overnight, and maybe we would be left with the cases that do have more meat on the bones.
Mm-hmm. And that is the big thing. Like I see a lot of these names pop up, and I've talked to other ufologists about this, where you all of a sudden see, let's say, Joe Smith comes out of nowhere, and the next thing you know, he's interviewing Ralph Blumenthal, Leslie Kane, and he's being invited to conferences, and it just seems to take off like this guy's all of a sudden a brand new superstar. And yet there's people who have been doing this job for years, some decades, who can't even get that phone number or make that phone call. It just, to me,
it's a big club, Dave Scott, and I ain't in it. It's a big club and I ain't in it. So, I call it the circle jerk crew. We see many of these shows that they get all the big name guests because they're willing to do the circle jerk and sit there and not ask the hard questions. That's a big problem for me as well.
What's a hard question?
Well, I think when somebody's education is fake and you don't ask them and you just sit there and interview them like a dummy because you didn't take the time or you didn't care enough to actually check their claims, that's a problem to me. It's not hard to do, but nobody does it. There's so many complete and total frauds in this world. I just want to sweep them away so that they no longer waste anybody else's time. Most importantly, and as you said earlier, selfishly, I don't want to waste my time on false claims and false people that are just here to make a buck.
Yeah, and you see, that's why I go back to the whole idea of going back to telling the experiencer's stories. It may be anecdotal, but at least for the 99% of them, they're not trying to make a buck. They just want to know what's happened to them because it's affected their life one way or another.
Sure. No, I agree with you. Then we could see
Oh, Steve is frozen up once again here. Hopefully that connection comes back. You know what I like about his freezing up is it actually happens right when we're about to go to break. Yeah, his signal just kind of drops out right when it's like his signal knows, hey man, it's time for a break and we got to freeze on up here. But that's okay. That's okay. We are going to go to break here. Hour number 2 with Truthseekers host Steven Cambian comes up next on Spaced Out Radio. Highly controversial, highly public. Do you buy them? Do you not? That's up to you. But we're going to get to more with Truthseekers Steven Cambian on Hour 2 of Spaced Out Radio next. All right.
Sorry about that.
Perfect timing, though. It's coming right. I'm just going to step away for a minute, and I'm going to put you back in the green room. And then a couple of people in the chat room have asked me an interesting question, saying that I'm dodging it. I'm going to get to that when we return. So I'll be right back, Steve. Just going to put you in the green room.
Sure.
We'll be right back. All right. Bring you back in here, Steve.
Okay.
All right. So a couple people have asked in the chat room tonight about a certain lady in Europe. I'm not going to mention her name, who decided to go down the old SS route.
Yeah, we could talk about that a little bit if you it's okay.
When we had her on, okay, so a couple people are saying I'm dodging the question, which I'm not. Okay, and thank you, Deb, again for a super chat. Okay.
Yeah, don't dodge the question. I don't know what the question was, but people are probably upset because you platformed her.
Well, but before she came out publicly is when she did the interview with us. The minute she came out, we erased that from our YouTube. We did.
Well, that's fair.
We don't want
I often say you can't blame the show host if he didn't know. But like let's say you had a history and you've done that 10 times, then you can't plead I didn't know. But
absolutely.
I don't think anybody until we covered her and a few others did knew the full extent of what this woman had said. And it's incredibly hurtful. My family's Polish, so we have no love for the Nazis. And I was just horrified by what she had said. And there's people making huge amounts of money off of her. And, I think UAN TV or whatever with Linda Moulton Hale interviewed her. They got 1 million monetized views with that interview. Theirs is still up, even after all the comments that she has made, the anti-Semitic stuff. She called it JewTube. She said the Jews run the world, and she's all of this stuff, right? And even Spooky says fair. Thanks for answering.
I appreciate it.
And when you get Spooky to say that, that's a big deal. So
I just, you know what? I don't have tolerance for crap like that, and nobody really should. And the fact that she got called out and was hanging out with a known Nazi sympathizer in Vancouver, a guy named Brian Rue.
Yeah, he had the Hitler stash for a while and everything. He was talking about how great Hitler was, and
it just made me want to puke, to be honest.
Well, she sort of disappeared, so maybe the trash took itself out. Maybe,
hopefully, but that's the truth behind the story. Is she came out after we did the interview. Thank you to Deb for 4 super chats. Cat Chaser, Spooky ×2, and Dry Toast. Here we go with hour 2.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter @Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Jamarte is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as a clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading the news wire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter @SpacedOutRadio, Instagram @SpacedOutRadio Show, and on TikTok @Spaced Out Radio. Here we go. Steven Cambian from the YouTube channel Truthseekers is with us. You either love him or you don't. The man has an opinion, and he does some serious digging on trying to find out what he feels is the real truth hidden that is not really spoken in ufology. Steve, I want to ask you on a personal level. I don't even know if you've ever been asked this before, okay? Considering how much criticism you take in the UFO world for what you do you have a lot of sleepless nights? Do you?
No, it doesn't really. No, it doesn't really affect me. Sometimes I have to just consider the source. If I ruined your scam and I hurt your wallet, and the best that you could do is call me a scammer somehow, where there's no evidence or proof that I ever scammed anyone, or whatever. Some of these attacks are just ridiculous. It did get a little crazy a few times. Somebody came in the live chat once and threatened my wife by name. Congratulations, Sherlock knew how to look me up on Facebook. A few things have bothered me. I grew up on the mean streets of Philly, Dave, and people should know that you don't threaten somebody's family who's from where I'm from. That's a stupid idea. So that has bothered me, but as long as I keep it to me, I don't care what anybody says, because the truth is still the truth. If it's ugly, it's still the truth. If you don't like it, it's still the truth. If it goes against your preconceived confirmation bias, it's still the truth. And we do our very best to really be diligent and give people a lot of data, facts, evidence, who, what, when, why. We do a lot of fact checking. So generally, when I take a stance on one of these characters, I'm confident that, we're not wrong. And we have a proven track record over at least 5 years of getting stories right. And a lot of people don't even know some of the stories, like the Anjali story. We were the people who fully investigated that and busted her whole story as being largely fake or fictionalized. Her background was real, her education was real, but her entire story was refuted by the other principal witnesses to that night, which we got on the record interviews with, that blew her whole story to being a work of fiction. There was no tunnel. He didn't even start digging a tunnel yet. So how is she meeting aliens in a tunnel that didn't exist at that time? It still doesn't exist. And against all odds, with the help of some other researchers, Charlie Weiser and James A. Conrad and a few others, it was interesting. We all sleuthed on the internet and we found her principal witnesses against all odds. I got to interview them, and we proved that her story was fake. And to those people who were so angry with me over that specific story, I would just like to say, did you want to believe in a fake story and a person telling fairy tales, or did you want to know the truth? Isn't it beneficial to hear the other witnesses refute everything that she said happened? Don't you want to know that tunnel she claimed she met aliens in didn't exist? There was no tunnel. Me, I want to know the truth, good, bad, or ugly.
Let's get to some audience questions here, because they are kind of fired up.
Great, now I'm in the hot seat now.
Let's start off with Super Crazy has a couple of ones here. Do you think the Roswell, New Mexico, and Virginia, Brazil UFO crash stories actually happen?
Well, on Roswell, Roswell is still to me a fascinating story. And for those unaware, we did, for the Roswell 75th anniversary, we did an 8-hour broadcast, and we interviewed all the world's leading experts, authors, and researchers on Roswell. Don Schmidt, Kevin Randall, Walter Bosley. We had Cal Korff, who's a big skeptic. We had Tom Carey. We had Michael Schratt. We had everybody who has done a significant amount of research or authored a book on Roswell. And quite honestly, I thought if we just get all these experts in one place and put them all together, we'll get to the mystery of Roswell. But what we got is a lot of data, and I guess people have to sift through that 8 hours of interviews. And are they going to believe the people who really and truly believe, like Tom Carey and Don Schmidt, that truly believe that there was some sort of alien biological entities recovered? Because there is some convincing evidence and testimony that that's what happened. And then we have Walter Bosley, who has an alternate theory that it was some sort of rocket test from Project Paperclip. Cal Korff just came in and said it's just a weather balloon. And we had Michael Schratt talking about the crash retrievals and with all kinds of information. Roswell is still one of those that I would truly like to believe. And there's a book by Tom Carey and Don Schmidt called Children of Roswell. And if you read that book and you don't believe all of those people, I just think that there's just too many people that came forward on their deathbeds and told their children that they saw alien bodies. Now, it could be that these were deformed humans or something, or chimps in a test capsule, who knows? But there's just an incredible amount of evidence for Roswell being a real alien event. And that's one that I still am interested in. Now, the Virginia case, I always call it the vagina aliens. I'm less convinced. I think James Fox did a terrible job in this last documentary. All we got was a bunch of new anonymous sources confirming, it was definitely aliens. And there's a lot of evidence and proof that seem to suggest that people change their stories a lot over the course of time. The principal witness to the so-called crash site, he once said he got there and he was there for about 5 minutes and then the military showed up. That was his original account. In his newest account, the military was already there when he got there. I would think that's an important detail. Virginia, I think that was overhyped and underdelivered. James Fox was talking about there's film of this alien, but it wasn't in the documentary, and he's still trying to buy film of the alien for $200,000. You know, I think it's very suspect, especially because James Fox has sold that story 3 times now. He has profited from that story 3 times. So for anybody to suggest that he doesn't have a motive called money to continue pushing the story as true, and again, he does the lie by omission. He doesn't really talk about all the evidence that this could be a confluence. You know, this could be all misunderstood, disconnected events that were jammed together to form a narrative.
What do you think then about Logan Paul potentially having a UFO video?
Yeah, I think this story is very, very, this shows you the sort of slimeball nature of the whole topic. For those unaware, a person had a video purportedly to be of a craft over Area 51, a UFO video that's supposed to be very clear and a very great video. And Logan Paul went to buy it from this man, Chuck, who was an Area 51 researcher. He's the guy who found all those secret sensors the government didn't want us to know about surrounding the base. Sort of a Area 51 watchdog. He's been in possession of this tape, and I've talked to several people that claim they've seen the tape, and it's one of the best close-up views of a, I guess you could say, flying saucer that they've ever seen. And also UFO Watchdog saw it and said it was a very convincing tape. And, you know, he doesn't know if it's a real video or if it might have been staged or hoaxed, but it was very clear and convincing. And UFO Watchdog is incredibly skeptical. So because he's interested, I was interested. And Logan Paul essentially went in this man's home, offered him $100,000 to buy the video, and he said no. So Logan Paul says, well, show it to me. And then he secretly filmed it on a little button camera without that person's knowledge or consent. And he's now threatening to release the video. And I saw your coverage with your guest. I forget his name. I'm sorry. I'm terrible with names. And you guys were talking about this. You know, I hope the real and original video, as close to the source, which, by the way, was VHS High 8, I believe, comes out. I hope they digitize it to the best of their ability, the highest quality they can, and it comes out that way. Because what we're probably going to get is Logan Paul's secretly recorded little button camera. And remember, he was filming while he was being shown this on an old television set. He's threatening to release the video. And that's kind of slimy because he tried to buy the video from the man and the man said no. Shouldn't he have the right to determine when it gets released or how much money he gets paid for it? And Logan Paul has got a whole set of his own problems with crypto scams. So his involvement at all just muddies the water and makes it sort of like, is this going to be a hoax or a scam? If he's involved, I would tend to believe it is, you know? It's unfortunate. I hope we get to see it, though. I did a whole show on it. We talked about it.
Yeah, we've talked quite a bit here, too.
Because all I can tell you is if UFO Watchdog saw it and he thinks it's a really good, compelling video, I'm interested. Because UFO Watchdog, for those that don't know, there's a website called UFOWatchdog.com. I credit him with waking me up to a lot of these people not being, people not being what they appear to be and pushing fake stories. He was here long before me with the website. His website's still up. It's ancient, but it's a great source of information. He is incredibly skeptical of every claim made. So for him to go there, view the video, he also feels terrible because he's the one that arranged for Logan Paul to go meet the guy and see the video. It's unfortunate. I hope that the real video comes out and not some crappy, stealthily recorded version, right?
I hope it comes out. But I mean, the one thing about Logan Paul, he does push the limits. He is love him or hate him. I'm neither here nor there. He is someone who has pushed the limits. I mean, years ago, he got in a lot of trouble with YouTube for filming a body.
Dead body, yeah.
Dead body.
Oh, Nicole Sackich is here.
Yes.
Tell Grant Cameron to call me. I've been trying to get him back on my show for a long time, but I don't think Grant is very good with the messages. Like, I don't think he's getting my messages. And I'd like to have Nicole as well, because I listen to Nicole and Grant Cameron. And actually, I don't know, Grant Cameron, I'd like to punch in the face someday, maybe, because Grant Cameron once told me that all he does is he makes lists of people that he finds are worthy of listening to for information. And then he just has headphones on and he's constantly listening to his select group of people. And then I started doing that. And I find like everywhere I go, I have headphones with me and I'm listening to certain people. It's his fault. Okay. Thank you, Nicole. I appreciate that.
As a fellow Canadian, I have to say that if you go after Grant like that, I have to then come at you.
No, I'm not really going to punch him in the face. I do have to say, it's also Grant Cameron who said, he told me, like, Steven, you can't ignore all the experiencers. They may have the information that you're looking for, and you may be able to piece it together. And so I started to talk to more of them, and I found that to be a good experience, regardless of what information was gained, because I let my guard down and I stopped thinking, they're just telling stories. And I started listening, and I've heard from several people who saw things similar to me or had similar experiences. And just knowing you're not alone in this strange rabbit hole is helpful. And I'd like to have Nicole on as well sometime. She does a great job. She's sort of like his handler now. Great.
Nicole, I will say this about Nicole Sakich. She is one of the most underrated UFO sources of information that is out there. And I don't know how she flies under the radar with her knowledge, but I'm glad that her and I talk literally every day.
Good for you.
Yeah, because her and I
she's been on my list for a while to get as a guest, but every week I try to set aside time to book people, and I'm terrible at that. So sometimes I just go with solo shows all week and forget the guests. I'm trying to at least do one interview a week. You know, it's difficult. You know that.
Absolutely. I couldn't do it without our team. Let's go to another question here. Super Crazy is asking, who are the big names in ufology that you do trust and believe?
Well, that's a difficult question. I did trust and believe Stanton Friedman, though we disagreed on several things, including the star map with Betty and Barney Hill. Stanton Friedman, for those that don't know, was just instrumental in me, and he really took me and showed me how to do research at National Archives and presidential libraries. And I'm so much better of an investigator for just him sharing some of those things. And, I think he got some things wrong, but he tried to get things right. And he was one of those guys that would go to the ends of the earth, like the reason we know about Roswell is because of Stanton Friedman. He heard about, the primary witness, right? And he just hops on a plane and goes and interviews him. That's balls. And so I did like him. I like Jim Mars. Unfortunately, I guess I like a lot of people who have passed on, who I think had a different work ethic and a different view of researching. And, now we have an epidemic of what I call right-click researchers. And I'm a victim of this myself. And I just mean that most people today, if you can't find it on the internet, they don't find it. People won't even pick up the phone to try to find information anymore. Half of my good stories just come from picking up the phone and asking a lot of questions. I really like Jim Mars and his work on JFK and some other stuff, like, the Texas, oh God, I'm blanking on the name of that story. The 1897, the alien crash landed Aurora. I really liked his stuff on that, because that's one of those tantalizing things. Like, there may be a body of an alien being somewhere in this cemetery, but we're not allowed to dig. That's crazy to me. But as far as modern researchers or modern personalities, I think Stephen Greenstreet, after he did his 180, is doing good work now, and he's really pulling back the layers of deception. I like John from the Black Vault because I know what it takes to do those FOIA requests, and I just cannot do it. Every time I have to do it, I have to force myself for a full-on week to fill out all the paperwork, and then you got to wait forever. And he does a tremendous service to the entire community by getting all these documents that people want to know more about. He just goes after them all. Alien Scientist is also somebody that I admire, respect, and believe, because Jeremy is very focused on the science of this stuff. What is the propulsion? How does it work? How do they get here from there, if they are getting here from there? And he's got a physics degree and background. He's a real scientist. He's doing a lot of experiments and bringing together a lot of people that have interest in UFO propulsion. You've got to love that. I'm sure there's more, but those are the people that I could say that I admire, respect, and believe. If they are, if they're speaking, I will listen to those people, and probably more.
I can see that. All right,
I do like Grant Cameron too, but I do think that he and I will just agree to disagree that sometimes he goes a little too woo. But I like him as a person. I think he's a great guy, and he is good at putting together this managing magic sort of book of his is incredible, because it just puts together so many of the pieces. So sometimes you need a guy like that who's looking down and seeing all the puzzle pieces and bringing the puzzle together. And I might not agree with a lot of what he says, and I think he gets behind some people that I think are garbage, but I admire and respect people who are just they're trying. Even if they get it wrong, they're still in there. They're still in there searching for the truth. And if they get it wrong, they get it wrong, but they're still there searching for the truth. So I admire and respect anybody trying, really trying. And you can tell when somebody's putting in a lot of effort and when somebody's just speaking the same talking points.
The one thing about Cameron is we got about 2.5 minutes to go here before we got to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Steve Cambian is our guest tonight. Is Grant will follow a rabbit hole, no matter how ridiculous it is. He goes with the information that he's getting, and then he follows that path until it comes to an end. Once he's figured out that that's the end of it, he retracts and then takes another path. That's what I really admire about him, and I don't think a lot of people actually get that about Grant. But I'm going to follow up almost a similar question than what you were asked here momentarily. This one from Joe. I'm going to change it up a little bit. Who today, Steve, do you believe is telling the truth about UFOs?
Yeah, I mean, I think the same list of the people still existing. I like John from the Black Vault because he's sort of got a no-nonsense approach, and he's about facts and evidence, and here's the documents. I like what Stephen Greenstreet did, especially doing a 180 on, because at one time he was sort of rah, 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 the aliens are here. And then I think he had his own personal awakening. And again, I like Alien Scientist. And there's a lot of other lesser known people that you may not be aware of. I'm a big fan of Bob Kiviat, who was the original producer of the Alien Autopsy series. He was a guest on my show a few times. He's working on some new films that are going to be out of this world. And Bob brings in both sides. He gives everybody the whole story, and then you can make up your own mind. I'm okay with that style too. What I don't like is when people give you half the story and you have to figure out the rest on your own. I like Kevin Randall's books and work, and a few others. I like there's a English gentleman named Philip Mantle that has a lot of great books, and he's sort of underappreciated. Great researcher, great author. I like anybody who doesn't just ram what they think is the truth down my throat. I'm a data guy. I have a background in computer science, so I like it when people just give me all the data and let me make up my own mind. And you may remember, Dave, that the style on television when these topics were covered used to be the believer side, and then they'd bring in some skeptics or some people who were more skeptical, and maybe they'd do experiments to find out what that could have been in the sky, and it's not an alien, it's this or whatever. We lost that skeptic side, and now if you watch any modern UFO documentary, it is totally told from the aliens are here believer side.
On that note, Steve, I'm going to get you to hold on from Truthseekers YouTube channel. Steven Cambian, we have until the top of the hour. We're going to continue on with audience questions and whatever else we can fit in the next 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned. We got a great show coming up. All right, dude. This is flying by.
Yeah, really. I see. And oh, by the way, I just want to tell your audience that Dave took a lot of crap for even having me here. So I want to thank him for that, because he had to know that people are like, what are you, crazy, Dave Scott? You can't have this guy. And isn't it better, Dave, that you and I have a conversation like this? And then we're both going to understand each other a little better,
Absolutely.
After this.
Just so you know, it's Vicks. It's nothing else. It's Vicks inhaler.
That's where he keeps the cocaine.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, it's funny about the different styles of doing a show too. Like, I get it. You grew up with Art Bell too, so you have that. Like, let's hear the story. Let people talk. And then people can make up their own mind, I suppose.
Absolutely. We are more. If I were to define our show, I'll talk to anybody. It really doesn't matter.
Art Bell would talk to anybody.
It doesn't matter. I really don't care what people in the community think. There are a few people we do have on a no-go zone. Okay. There are people out there like one of the things that's really pissed me off over the years is people who in this field have claimed to be journalists but don't have a journalism background. They've never worked in a newsroom. They've never worked for anything, but just because they've wrote a blog about UFOs, and all of a sudden they're a journalist or an investigative journalist.
I'm a little guilty of that myself, though, because I don't know what to say especially when I'm making phone calls. I do say that. I say, I'm an investigative journalist. I'm working on a story about this. Can you help me? Because I don't know what else to say. And I for sure don't have a journalism degree, but I did read, 10 or 20 books on that, or, trying to learn. I'm trying to learn as I go. It's a lot of hats. And the investigatory stuff I do is just one hat. Then I have to host the show. I have to edit the videos and graphics. Now do whatever.
It's funny because I was talking to Nicole about this last night. She called me, and we were talking about it. If I actually had the time, because I have a daytime job, I got to feed my family. This show doesn't pay.
Yeah. And no offense, Dave, but it's a good idea to keep that, because then you don't do slimy things.
Well, I mean, I love the job that I do, and I work for an amazing person who is, it's funny because he's very Christian and wants to protect me from the paranormal stuff that I dealt
demons,
in. The demons and everything. But he respects what I do, and this is an 18 it's a 15 to 18 hour a day gig for me, Monday through Friday. And if I could do this full time, let's say, for instance, I had 50 radio stations covering this show. Then I could put in the phone calls. I could put in the time. That's the hard part, is trying to find time, and I'm already squeezed.
Yeah, well, I have a business outside of this, and I have to do that to feed my family as well. But I just decided that I would rather keep that and just But I am always pressed for time. I have clients that I have to deal with. I do like managed services for small businesses. I just take care of all their computers in their office, small offices, and that takes up a lot of my time. But because of that, I don't have to make what I call the slimy decisions that a lot of people, there's a reason that a lot of these other show hosts are softballing everyone. They have to get the guests. I don't have to softball anybody, because I have a day job like you, so my house bills and everything else are all paid out of that. And the show funds are just to support the show. So I don't, I'm not affiliated with any networks. I'm just completely independent. and I don't have to do the super chat shuffle or the, softball interviews. I hope I never do that.
I am my big issue. I'm tired of being tired. And I mean, you're a father. I'm a father. My boy is 9, and like
I got a 10-year-old. Yeah.
Like, give me an example. Like tonight, I got home from work at 5 o'clock. We ate dinner, and my kid is like, "Dad, let's go to the lake because there's a lake with a nice beach."
Yeah, you got to make time for them. They take time.
Miles.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, let's go to the beach. Give me 10 minutes. Doze off for 10 minutes, and then race down to the beach. Race up here, and then But anyways, thank you, Spooky Times 2, Deb Times 5, Cat Chaser, and Dry Toast for the super chats. Here we go with the next half hour, everyone. We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Reminder to all of you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We have until the top of the hour from the YouTube channel Truthseekers. Steven Cambian is with us tonight. Steven, thank you so much for being here. We've had a lot of fun. I hope you have as well.
Yeah. We were saying during the break, it's much better. People have preconceived ideas that you and I shouldn't talk or what. It's just nonsense. Like, we can agree to disagree on some things and end as friends and not, it doesn't have to get so heated. And it often does in this topic. People are one way or the other,
All right, let's continue on. The audience still has a bunch of questions for you. Mennonite Abe here, Abe will see you in Vegas just a few short days. He's asking, what do you think of the likes of John Ramirez?
John Ramirez that's the CIA guy, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I've talked about this on my show. Since 2016, there has been a complete and total infiltration of 3-letter agencies. I call them alphabet soup agencies, and you can take your pick. CIA, DIA, NSA. We have been absolutely infiltrated with 3-letter government agency people infiltrating the UFO community. And John Ramirez is just the latest in a long line of CIA, I believe to be CIA disinformation officers who are actively spreading alien stories. And I suspect that is due to something called the dark playground, which is they want to cover the black projects. They'd rather have people chasing aliens. And this is, of course, my opinion and speculation, but there's evidence to support that the United States government has actively sent operatives into the UFO community to spread false information about aliens to stop people from looking into things like the U-2 or the SR-71 Blackbird or stealth fighters. And we've got on the record real evidence that the government has spread alien stories to cover black projects. And since 2017, 2016, the UFO community has been absolutely infiltrated with CIA people, DIA people in the form of Anjali. Now we have this John Ramirez, a CIA guy. He's backing Anjali's story. He is provably giving people false information about Anjali. That is easy to fact check and find out is not the case. Why would he do that? And, the problem is with the CIA, their job is to lie to people, deceive people, manipulate people. Look at Project Mockingbird or other examples. I don't trust a CIA person to tell me the truth, and nor should anyone. So he seems very genuine in his beliefs. Good for him, but he is spreading a lot of false information, provably so.
Well, as they say, once in the CIA, always in the CIA. You never really.
There's no retiring. There is no retiring from the CIA.
You know what's funny is on our guest list for Las Vegas this week, John Ramirez is coming.
Oh, interesting.
I met him at UFO Con in San Francisco a couple months ago.
I always love that they name it the UFO Con. You know,
right?
It's like truth in advertising sometimes, you know?
I agree. But just the idea that I didn't know he was coming to Vegas until we were sitting down at the end of the show for a couple of beers, and he mentioned, yeah, he goes, I've got my ticket for Vegas, so I'll see you there. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. See you there, man. See you there. Let's go to Deb. Steve, what lights your fire and motivates you every day?
You know, since starting my show, a lot of the investigations that we've done have centered around UFO people, but they've also centered around fake psychics who are manipulating people, taking advantage of people. And I do get a lot of messages from people that are so thankful. You know, they used to give this person money or that person money, and watching my show kind of woke them up. That's really motivating, and it's good to think that you're doing some good in the world. So I try to do that every day, you know. And thanks, Deb, for saying.
What do the people around you think?
Well, yeah, my wife is like not interested in this at all. My children could care less. So, you know, I have a few friends in my real, you know, non-internet life that know what I do. Some of them watch, some of them don't. You know, most people know that I've had this intense interest into these topics for most of my life. So it's kind of natural that I would do a show about that. Just as if somebody was into baseball their whole life, they might do a podcast about baseball. You know, I just do it with conspiracy land stuff.
Outside of UFOs, what's your favorite? Is it the cryptid world? Do you enjoy the cryptid world? Do you like the paranormal world, the ghost hunting stuff?
Yeah, all of the above. I have a cabin in the mountains that's got a lot of Sasquatch themed stuff. And while I don't believe there's a real biological creature out there, like some people do, I don't know why, but I've always been attracted to Bigfoot and fascinated by this whole mythology. You know, and I do like anything strange or paranormal. We just started a new series called What Is It? Somebody was passing around what appeared to be like a merman creature, and that people said was real, or a merman, and we tracked it down and found out it came from a television series Raised by Wolves, and we tracked down the exact episode and showed it. And you know, so that stuff's still fun to me, even though a lot of it is overhyped and faked, you know. But and as far as the paranormal stuff, you know, I grew up Catholic, and I was very interested in demons and demonology and things like that. I was educated by the Jesuit priests. That'll start a whole conspiracy right there. That was my education, Jesuit priests and brothers, my whole life. And so I did get a lot of education into things like demons and demonology and exorcism and the reality of evil in the world. And quite honestly, I'm fascinated with demons and demonology and exorcism because one could argue that there's more evidence of that than there is of aliens on Earth.
It's a scary world out there that the phenomena is projecting out there. It's just trying to figure out what is truthful about it and what is not. That's the big question that I seem to have, and many others do as well. Let's get to another question from our audience. Let's go to Charles here. Steve, if a Truthseekers member sends you UFO pictures, would you run with them?
Well, no. You know, I have people send me stuff a lot, and to be quite honest, you know, not to disparage anybody or discourage anybody. I like when people send me things. People send me a lot of stuff that is indiscernible from anything. It's like a blob in the sky or a little dot in the sky that could be anything. And a lot of times people want me to cover their UFOs or talk about their experiences, and I just kind of walk away feeling underwhelmed by what I've been receiving. But that being said, I do have some footage that I've gotten from around the world and I've been saving it up. We're going to do a show on the better of the stuff that people have sent me. Would I run with it? No, I would be very cautious, because I'm really not a fan of the put it out there garbage, like Third Phase of Loon or some of these other people that just run with anything that people send them without doing any. I would have to look into the footage and hear the story and analyze it if possible. But most of what people send me, it's a light in the sky. I've had people send me verifiable birds. Once I enhanced the footage, I could clearly see flapping. So, this is not footage that I would use. I don't want to put anything else. I think there's enough garbage UFO footage out there that's not what people purport it to be. So I'd have to be very cautious. But certainly I look at most of what people send me.
No, I would tend to agree with that you have to look into it. If you had the smoking gun footage, if you had the $1 million video, the next Patterson.
Well, that's funny that you say that, because we mentioned the Varginha case, and James Fox is right now running around offering people $200,000 for the footage of those aliens. And all I'm going to say is that I had somebody contact me, and I've seen footage of what looks like some sort of alien creature, and I'm still looking into it. And again, I would want to be extremely cautious, especially before connecting it to a famous case and trying to monetize it or anything like that. I think you have to be extremely careful. If I was sure, I would sure put out whatever I got if it was that good and it passed, some fact checking and analysis by qualified people, sure I would, And I do have a little bit of UFO footage that I've had military experts look at that just kind of scratch their heads, but that's not a conclusive, determination that it couldn't be terrestrial craft or, some sort of secret government project. I think that people should look up stealth blimps if you want to learn a little bit more about secret government projects. Stealth blimps. A lot of research was done into creating stealth blimps, and we just don't hear anything about them anymore. Funny that.
Amazing how things that may happen in the Nevada desert just seem to disappear. It's amazing. Let's go to another question here. This one from Sweet Tony D in the UK. Good morning to you, Tony. Steve, so what is your opinion about the Colares case in South America?
That one's on my list to really wait. I think I'm thinking of the right one. It's been on my list for quite a while. I have that and a few other. There's a lot of cases out of Mexico and South America that go unresearched for one reason or another. And I have a huge list of different cases. I think that's probably on my list. It's therefore in my gray basket. I tend to approach this with baskets. I have the white basket where I think it's really convincing or good evidence of a case of something really strange and mysterious happening, whatever that be, like Roswell. I have a gray basket, which means it just goes in there until I've really, really researched each one to make a determination. And then I have a black basket that's fakes, frauds, hoaxes, and garbage. This case would still be considered in my gray basket because it's one that I have not done my due diligence on yet.
Gotcha. Is there speaking of UFO stories, I know you mentioned Roswell earlier, but is there a UFO story that you're really, really hopped up about that really kind of tickles the fancy, so to speak?
Yeah, it's that Logan Paul case right now because, and I can't stress this enough. When another skeptic comes to me and I listen to them and they say, and I mean, a lot of people would argue that UFO Watchdog is even more skeptical than me. And I heard him in the spaces and I've heard, what he has said about this footage is that it is clearly a structured craft. It's not a light in the sky. It's not a blurry blip going across. It's it is close up view of a structured craft. And the fact that he's so skeptical, he's going after a lot of the fraudsters way before me. And the fact that he is still so interested in this footage, and he wants what we all want. He just wants the footage to be released. He wants a high quality scan of it, as high quality as possible, so that it can be analyzed by qualified people who can make some determination of what this craft depicted in this footage is. And, you know, there's always something that comes along. Before that, it was the Calvine. I was excited about that until people started digging into it. And then it appears not so exciting anymore, you know?
See, when I hear you talk like this about these big cases, you know, and that, you know, obviously when you come out and it doesn't matter whether it's you or anybody else comes out with a big story, whether it's Calvin Parker, Travis Walton, Betty Andreasen, or Benny and Barty Hill, or whoever it may be, you know, when they come out and talk about this publicly, you know, there's always this sense of that they're going to get beaten up. They're going to get absolutely shredded apart for telling their story. How does one come out with telling their story, in your opinion, without having to absolutely be rated as a fool on the internet? Because I think we miss out on a lot of stories because people are afraid of the reaction.
Well, I think one of my determining factors for some people that are telling their stories is the monetization. You know, Anjali, for example, had plans to do a documentary, a book deal, and some kind of a series before she's even provided any evidence or proof of anything. These were plans that were made, and then under, you know, people being so critical of her monetizing it out the wazoo, or attempting to, she backed off of those plans. You know, if somebody comes to me with their story and they really want me to listen, and they're not trying to make any money, they're not selling a book, a documentary, whatever, I'm a little more apt to believe them, or at least entertain their story. And I get, that some people might have that perception that you're going to get beaten down, but I think it's becoming a lot more accepted topic now, and more people are coming forward with stories that they might not have told 20 years ago. You know, I don't think it's quite as bad. It used to be really, you know, play the X-Files music and make fun of this person if any media coverage happened about it. They all did that. But attitudes are changing as the government at least acknowledges, surprise, surprise, UFOs are real. And of course, they were always real. There's always going to be some unidentified craft in the sky. As far back as, you know, the 1897 or 1800s airship mysteries, those were UFOs. Nobody knew what they were, and they were in the sky. So of course UFOs are real, but somehow through the government acknowledgement of this as a fact, a lot of that stigma has gone away, and people are more willing to listen without jumping down people's throats or instantly thinking that they're liars or kooks, right?
Let's get to one more question from our audience here. And as we got about 6 minutes to go tonight with our guest, Steve Cambian from the YouTube channel Truthseekers. Super Crazy wants to know, do you think the alleged supernatural stuff reportedly happening at Skinwalker Ranch is legit?
We have covered this pretty extensively. What people need to know about Skinwalker Ranch is that it has been one big money grab. Whether you're talking about the Bob Bigelow era, where Bob Bigelow got paid $22 million to study his own ranch, which he claimed was the biggest paranormal hotspot in the world, or you're talking about the Brandon Fugel. And you also have to remember that Brandon Fugel's been swindled by paranormal claims before in the form of an anti-gravity company that never went anywhere, that turned out to be complete bunk. And I think what was very telling, or most telling to me, is Travis Taylor is an optical physicist, and he showed at least one thing on the show that any optical physicist would know was not paranormal, but he claimed that it was. That was a big red flag for me. And the other red flags are, you know, Stephen Greenstreet went there and said, Well, show me your best evidence. And we got to see a video of what could be a silkworm and a video of what could be a moth or a lightning bug. If you've dumped millions of dollars into this property and that's the best evidence you have after all these years, it's not evidence. And always remember that they have to have something paranormal to have a TV show. They're all getting huge checks. I don't trust Travis Taylor. If I was in charge of that ranch, I would have fired him instantly. I would have fired him after the first, couple of times that he played fast and loose with the facts in order to sell paranormal happenings. So
Well, I mean,
most of me, I love the legend. It's nice. You tie in the Native American legends and the fact that there's natives nearby, and there's an awful lot of stories, which still leaves me interested. I will at least look at what they have. But when they claim that they're doing the greatest scientific investigation ever, and all they have is videos of bugs and things, it's very suspicious to me. And I think that there's a profit-driven motive. Skinwalker Ranch is the new ratings cow for History Channel. And what used to be their ratings cow? Ancient aliens, which is another topic that has been largely profited from, that doesn't have a lot of real evidence. But that didn't stop them from making 12 seasons of that show,
I want to ask you, as we got about 3 minutes to go here, do you believe in disclosure, or do you think we are in a confirmation of the phenomena movement?
No, most of the people I think that are pushing the term disclosure, I often joke that if a show name or a documentary has the word disclosure in it, it's the kick the can game. A lot of these disclosure advocates have been, hyping up these big things are coming, and we never seem to get them, and it's just kick the can. And, I don't believe that the United States government knows more about these topics than, say, a decent researcher that's been involved with this for 10 years or so knows. We see some of these government people are repeating the same stories that you and I have already read or heard about years ago. There seems to be this game that some of these government people are going to be in on disclosure, and it may very well be that some government people really do want the government to just be transparent, and here's what we know about Roswell, here's what we really know about this or that. They don't have any motive to really give us the truth, and I don't believe that they ever will. And I don't believe that any of these government types pretending to be disclosure advocates or UFO messiahs are going to bring us anything other than something new to buy from them. And that's sad, but that's what I believe. Most of the disclosure hype, people said disclosure came after TTSA. No, it didn't. What they did disclose is that they like money. So that's good.
90 seconds to go here. What do you want to see? What do you want to see happen? If you were to look at the UFO 5-year plan, what is it?
Well, to be very honest with you, I've become so cynical and so sort of jaded. And people get angry with me because they say, why don't you cover more true cases, Steven? And I say, send me some. Because what we do is we go down the rabbit hole, kind of like you were talking about with Grant Cameron, and we go to the ends of the story. And if at the end of the story, we have amassed a massive amount of information that the story is fake, we put that out. I'm not putting a spin on it to sell it. I'm just showing you what I found. We take our audience on Truthseekers. We take our audience with us for the journey. So for the next 5 years, to be quite honest with you, I'm cynical enough to think, by the way, people are making predictions, 2027 mass sighting event, disclosure is finally going to come. John Ramirez and others are saying that. I think that we're going to see a lot more kick the can and a lot more UFO profiteering, and no more evidence right now, no more evidence 5 years from now than we have right now. Just a lot more stories, a lot more documentaries, a lot more books, a lot more profit for people that don't really have real evidence. And that's sad, but that's how I feel about the situation.
Steven Cambian from Truthseekers on YouTube. Thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio tonight. It's been
thanks
a
for
pleasure
having me.
hosting you. Coming up next in hour number 3, we are going to head to Among the Missing with Steve Stockton, then follow that up with Little Timmy Senor. Our resident Timbit is going to be here for the UFO report. A jam-packed final hour of Spaced Out Radio right after this.
Hey, there we go. And if anybody's looking for my channel, it's Truthseekers Show, one word in the search bar, and you'll find us. If you just put in Truthseekers, you might not find it. Just look for me, the strange guy with sunglasses. And I want to welcome everybody. We are going to be doing a little bit, I don't know, we have to name the series, Dave, look like on the woo side or something, you know? We're going to do a few more of those kind of interviews. I could be the conductor of the woo train sometimes.
There's enough track out there to have their own woo train.
I'm going to take your gig. I'm going to take the woo train. Yes. Yes.
Go.
But I do want to welcome everybody. Come and check us out. If you're okay with, a little bit more skeptical view, and also we have amassed quite a good database. So if you're just curious about somebody and their claims, just go to our YouTube channel and put their name in the search bar. We've probably covered them in some of their claims. You too can peel back some layers of deception and see some of the reality behind the claims. And that's all I'm looking to do. I know I piss a lot of people off. That's not my intention. It's just to get to the truth.
Well, I appreciate you taking time for our audience. I think a lot of people expected fireworks and fighting and all that.
It's not too late. I could come back and scream at you for a little while if you think that'll get ratings, right?
Well,
I know.
I've already got my third hour planned out.
No, I'm just busting your balls. But I hope you'll come on my show, and you're always welcome, and I'd be happy to come back here. And thank you for having me. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Yeah, and you too as well. You take care and get on it. And our subscribers, like I tell you all the time, support who's supporting us. And
yeah, absolutely.
We go there. All right, Steve, you take care. Thank you for a great interview.
All right. Thank you, Dave. You have a good evening. And thanks to your audience for listening. I'm going to listen in on the third hour while I do some other work. Thank you, guys. And what a great chat. Thank you all. Good night.
Take care. Good night. I'm going to take a quick break here. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I'll be right back. All right. Excuse me. What is behind Dave's cage? It's a bottle of beer. It was given to me for my first show as a present. All right, big thank you tonight to Deb times 5, Dry Toast, Spooky times 2, Cat Chaser, as well for the great super chats. Very much appreciate the love and support, everybody. We are only going tonight and tomorrow night, as Wednesday is travel day for me to head down to the coast, see my dad before going to Las Vegas. So it'll be a shortened week here this week. I apologize, but it's Vegas, baby. Here we go.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio continues tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us, will you, at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Jamart. Jamart is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as a clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It is that time once again where we bring in Steve Stockton from Among the Missing for another weird story.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Among the Missing YouTube channel on Spaced Out Radio. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'm about to take you on an unbelievable journey of people just like you. Their stories and encounters will haunt us on Among the Missing. Mount St. Helens National Volcanic Monument joined the prestigious ranks of national parks in August of 1982. President Ronald Reagan understood the importance of preserving the 110,000-acre area. Mount St. Helens is a national park, but unlike most other national parks, it's maintained by the United States Department of Agriculture and Forest Service. Preservation of the area was deemed necessary to protect the geologic, ecologic, and cultural resources of the monument, allowing geologic forces and ecological succession to continue substantially unimpeded, as per the USDA Forestry Service. 2 years prior to the area being protected, the 140-year dormant volcano erupted, sending a blast wave that traveled at over 300 miles per hour. St. Helens' north face was destroyed, along with 200 square miles of forest. 57 people lost their lives. Afterwards, life slowly began to return to the area, the first thing being spiders and beetles just weeks after the blast. However, another life form may have escaped the crater in the form of a cryptid called Bat Squatch. Yes, you heard correctly, Bat Squatch. Soon there would be sightings of the creature, and it would beg the question, where did this thing come from? Bat Squatch, which is a cross between a bat and Sasquatch, is said to reside in or on Mount St. Helens, using the thick forest as cover and shelter. Described as being 6 to 8 feet tall, having a wolf-like snout, blue fur, glowing yellow or red eyes, sharp serrated teeth, bird-like feet, and bat-like wings spanning up to 50 feet. It said those who have had the misfortune of encountering the beast were so frightened by the sighting, some refused to return to the area where they saw it. People who have had encounters of the strange creature equate the May of 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens to the release of Bat Squatch from the Earth's core, along with the molten rock that caused devastation to much of the park and left that same devastation for hundreds of miles. Even here in St. Helens, Oregon, where I live, so named because you can see Mount St. Helens, which is across the river in Washington State. I've talked to some people that were living here at the time, and they told of how they didn't see the sun for weeks, and a fine ash covered everything. Now, one of the first sightings of this bat squatch creature was reported by Brian Canfield in the foothills of Mount Rainier, north of Mount St. Helens. In April of 1994, Brian Canfield was driving through Pierce County, Washington, when suddenly his truck died. While Canfield sat in his truck, scratching his head and figuring out how to get it started again, he recalled looking up and seeing a large creature land right in front of him. It was standing there, staring at me, like it was resting, like it didn't know what to think. I was scared. It raised the hair on me. I didn't feel threatened. I just felt out of place, Canfield recounted. He continues, after a few moments, the creature's fingers twitched. The wings began to unfold, wings that were as wide as the whole road, and it took off in the direction of Mount Rainier. The wings were so massive, the wind from the turbulence shook Canfield's truck. After a few moments, Canfield tried to start his truck up again, and it roared to life as if there'd never been an issue. Brian Canfield continued on his way home, and for the remainder of his trip, never even stopped for traffic signals. Arriving home, Brian quickly grabbed a piece of paper and attempted to draw from memory what he could remember of the creature. All the noise he was making woke his sleeping parents, and they inquired as to why he was so wound up, and that's when he told them what happened and what he saw. They insisted on Brian taking them to the area to look for clues as to what the thing could be, and a neighbor even agreed to take the family back to the area using directions from Brian. When they arrived, though, there was no trace of Bat Squatch. Interviews conducted by C.R. Roberts, the reporter that took the initial counts of Brian Canfield, stated he, Canfield, was just an average, normal kid. Brian Canfield was 18 years old at the time of encounter and not known to give in to flights of fancy. Roberts vouched for him after listening to the story, and Brian Canfield has what might be the best documented encounter with Bat Squatch. However, there was a handful of other reported sightings. In 1998, an unnamed man reported seeing two similar-looking creatures, one of which was injured after being struck by a logging truck on a trail in Mount St. Helens. In 2009, a group of hikers near Mount Shasta in California reported seeing a winged creature with a 50-foot wingspan fly from a crevasse in the mountain. In 2011, a man out for a walk with his dog reported seeing a blue-furred animal flying in the sky around where he was and watched as it flew from sight. And perhaps the last known sighting in 2014, Archbishop Hoban High School in Akron, Ohio, reported an entire class seeing a giant black mass whip past their window with incredible speed. Since 2014, it seems as though there hadn't been many sightings of the blue-furred monster. Perhaps it did escape the depths of the ill-fated Mount St. Helens when she erupted, giving a chosen few the chance to see into a realm few will ever have the privilege to. Or possibly, Bat Squatch simply reveals itself to those it chooses. Whatever set of circumstances that brought the winged creature to our forest, one thing is for certain. Those that have seen Bat Squatch will not soon forget the encounter.
And thank you to Steve Stockton from Among the Missing for a weird, strange story on Bat Squatch tonight. And we appreciate Steve for coming on in as he does each and every night here on Spaced Out Radio to kick off hour number 3. And if you want to hear more, all you got to do is go over to his YouTube channel, youtube.com/Among the Missing, and hit subscribe while you're there. From the strange stories to the high strangeness in the skies above, it's time to go to Tim Senor. The UFO report is next.
Nobody's going to know. They're going to know.
Our resident Timbit is back for another great report on UFOs tonight, but we have to say, hey, man, we are just days away from Las Vegas. Days away. It's no longer weeks. It's no longer months. It's no longer a year, but days away from congregating in Las Vegas for the second annual Spaced Out Radio Fan Party. we got another VIP tonight that's coming. And Michael Morris, thank you so much he's joining us. He's like, screw this. I got to be there. I booked my ticket, Dave. Got the email, so I'm pretty pumped up, Tim. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I guess I'll go. Little last minute, I suppose. It sounds okay. I'm just kidding. I've been much looking forward to it. I can barely concentrate on anything at work. I find myself drifting off, and I'm watching all these Vegas prep videos for how to cheat at poker. And I'm starting to realize I don't think I'm going to do so well if I plan on cheating at poker. These guys and counting cards, forget about it. There's just no way. The math. I don't have a head for it. I'm just going to have to go with Lady Luck.
Me too. Because Lord knows it's been about 10 years since Lady Luck blessed me at the poker table. Honestly, prior to 2013, 2014, Tim, I was on a run at the poker table. I used to go to Vegas a couple times a year. We'd go for just a getaway. And prior to 2014, the last 7 tournaments that I played in, the worst I finished was 7th. Best I finished was I got 2 wins out of that. Okay, not a lot of money, like maybe a couple $100, but still the satisfaction that you won a poker tournament in Las Vegas. And I will tell you, since then, I have had my butt handed to me at the poker table. Just handed to me. And, like a person in a horror movie, I keep going back, waiting for a different outcome. What do they call that? Is insanity? Is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. I'm hopeful. I am hopeful.
Right. But they also say you got to play it, to win. And so you just got to just roll those dice and see where Lady Luck takes you. It's just fun to be there. And obviously you don't take cash. You're not ready to lose. That's not what Vegas is about. Hopefully you don't play that way, but it's going to be fun no matter what. And you don't even have to gamble to hang out with us. There's going to be lots to do.
Very true. Very true. And the best part about the entire weekend, and if you can't make it this year, we're sorry about that, but hopefully you can make it next year wherever we host it, is the fact that it's about our fans. All of our special guests that you hear on this show that are coming, from Merle to Jim Goodall to Melinda Leslie to Michael Schratt to Science Bob to Tim, Random Guy, Geraldine Orozco, and many others. Varla Ventura, she's pumped up. They're all pumped up to hang out with you guys, the listeners. They're not, they're spending their own dime to come hang out with you. Normally, when they go to a conference or something, the flight is paid for, the hotel is paid for, they're getting a stipend for being there, no matter how much that is. Not for us, though. They're all like, hey, man, Dave, if you're throwing this party, Spaced Out Radio is very important to us. Your audience is very important to us. We're going to come, and we're just coming to hang out with the audience. That's what it's about. And that's what I love about it, and it's very real, and it's very fun. And who doesn't need a weekend of woo in their life? Who doesn't need that weekend? I do. You do. So we'll see where it goes. And hopefully Tim doesn't come back with a new tattoo. We'll see. All right, Tim, let's kick things off. United States Air Force, a retired United States Air Force member, has testified about his terrifying alien abduction. What is this about?
Yeah, and I wanted to bring stories tonight that are about witnesses that are coming before Congress and that are seeking out that asylum to talk about their experience while in the military. And so our first story for tonight is coming from howandwise.com about Sergeant Mario Woods. And he was a member of the security response team stationed at Ellsworth Air Force Base in South Dakota from 1975 to 1983. And in 1977, at around 10:45 p.m., Woods and his team received a serious alarm from the launch control officers, indicating a breach of the exterior alarm at the missile silo codenamed November 5. And so, acting swiftly, Woods informed his team leader, Michael Johnson, about the situation. Shortly after, they were ordered to investigate the area surrounding the missile silo. As they drove on Highway 79, they immediately sensed that something was amiss. The night sky was bathed in an eerie glow, signaling the presence of an unusual phenomenon. The entire atmosphere around them became brilliantly illuminated, resembling the rising sun. Rounding a bend, they came face to face with an enormous object hovering just about off the ground, about 5 to 10 feet high. And according to Woods, the object's size was astonishing, at least as large as a building, and its perfectly circular shape suggested a gaseous composition, as fluttering materials adorned its surface. The object appeared to emit a gaseous exterior, with colors swirling around it. Rather than a conventional craft, it was completely round sphere with discernible edges. And as they observed the UFO, Woods and Johnson experienced an overwhelming change in the atmosphere inside their truck. The air became thick and difficult to breathe. Woods noticed that Johnson was frightened and unresponsive while staring ahead. Woods suspected that Johnson's behavior was related to the UFO that they were witnessing. And so, leaning forward, he grabbed a flashlight and directed its beam toward the interior of the vehicle, hoping to disrupt the strange phenomenon. Strangely enough, Woods experienced an immediate reduction in the thick gas concentration surrounding them. His breathing became easier and the intense tension dissipated, but the sudden transition back to normality overwhelmed him, causing him to slump in his seat. Soon after, Woods lost consciousness. So when Woods regained his consciousness, he heard a radio transmission directing at their call sign, November 1, the wing security control. Woods was confused and realized that their truck had mysteriously relocated from November 5 to Newell Lake, a distance of about 5 to 7.5 miles. So with no memory of how they got there, and with no tire tracks or signs of their journey, just their vehicle in the middle of the mud. Woods and Johnson had seemingly lost several hours, a period of time they could not account for. Seeking assistance, Woods contacted the WSC and provided details about their surroundings. In some time, a backup alert team arrived and they were instructed to wait. Woods attempted to communicate with Johnson, but his attempts were met with silence. He eventually had to rely on another individual to help him move him to the passenger seat. Relieved of their weapons, Woods and Johnson were escorted by the backup alert team back to the main base. They were taken to the wing commander's office where Woods was questioned about the incident. He described the massive size of the object and admitted that he had no knowledge of how they had transported to their new location. The wing commander then sent Woods to the base hospital for a medical examination. The doctor at the hospital examined Woods thoroughly, including his eyes, ears, nose, and skin. And to his surprise, the doctor collected a skin sample, explaining that Woods had burns on his face and hand. The skin sample was then placed in a vial and stored on a silver tray. 2 weeks later, Woods was visited by Michael Johnson. They discussed their experiences, and Johnson expressed fear over what had transpired. However, that their meeting was the last time that Woods saw Johnson, and he has been unable to locate him since. So Woods' encounter with the UFO left him with physical and psychological scars. He suffered burns on his face and hand, and the skin sample taken from him was never shared with him or explained. The incident was also prompting Woods to undergo hypnosis in an attempt to recover memories from the 4-hour gap in his recollection. And although he remembers the event like a dream, he remains haunted by the experience, which continues to impact his life until today. And so this was one of the cases that witnesses came forward and explained this in detail. And so stories like this are pretty compelling, a lot of detail, and although some of it was recalled via his hypnosis, seems like he has some pretty clear recollection of the events that took place right up into the moment he lost consciousness. And in my mind, that's a pretty significant story. And so I'm glad that witnesses like this are coming forward. Dave, what do you have as an opinion on this?
Well, as an experiencer, I look at it and went, wow, like this is the type of story that I want to see come out. We need people like this to come out in front of Congress and the public about what's really happened to them. That being said, okay, I'm wondering why this story was allowed to come out, yet so many other whistleblower stories have not come out. What changed in Mr. Brooks's thoughts on making it public about his loss of time, his evidence that he has had physically, which he believes comes from some sort of alien abduction? Okay. This is where I get hyped up, because you know me, Tim, I love these type of stories. I do, because what I try as an experiencer, and many other experiencers will try as well, is we'll take that story and we'll try and say, okay, what lined up with what's happened to me? That's what we need. That's how we find extra evidence. People are always wanting evidence and proof. This is how we do it. What correlates with what I went through? And I think it's brave to talk about that story. I really do. I wish it was a little bit more open. I would like to know, has that UFO encounters continued for him? Okay. Was it a one and done situation? Because these stories and these experiences are very rarely a one and done when you're taken. So there is a lot more that needs to be explained here. And I would love to interview him. I would love to ask him those questions, because those are also highly important questions regarding what happened. Not just that it happened on a military base, not that he was in the service at that time. Okay. But what happened, and has it continued? That's what I would like to know. Your thoughts, Tim. We got 2 minutes.
Yeah, and what happened to the evidence? And this incident is actually known as the Ellsworth UFO case and was featured in the season 2 of Unidentified inside America's UFO investigation. And Woods is considered a witness and an experiencer of the events related to the Ellsworth UFO case. And the encounter was described by Mario Woods as just one of the many reports studied by Lou Elizondo, a former Pentagon official who investigated UFO encounters. And so this is part of Lou's program. He's working to bring a lot of whistleblowers like this forward. And I think it lends to the credibility of the programs that he's putting together to put protection forward. And then there's people like Mario, who is very public about his story and isn't looking for any kind of protection from the public. Now that his case has been released and there are no NDAs enforcing the information that he can talk about.
And that's a good thing, as long as he keeps talking. Mario was on with our good friend, Matt Ford, on the Good Trouble show. And I do have his email. Once we're done with Vegas, I will be reaching out to him to try and get him on Spaced Out Radio. I think that's the type of story that I love to do. And I want to know more. I want to know, is this something that was a one and done, or has it continued? Maybe not the markings on him, okay, because Stefan Mikulik in Canada here, he was a one and done after his. You never hear him talking about extra sightings, but then again, he wasn't taken. He was just burned by the craft, and the evidence left that way. But I mean, being taken, it's a whole different ballgame there, little Timmy Senor. Whole different ballgame. And we got to know if he's went up to bat a few more times than just his one shot in the big leagues. Tim, I'm going to get you to hold on right there, because we are going to come back after the break here, the final break of the night. When we come back, did a mystery UFO attack an Air Force base? And Russian scientists looking for tiny spheres? Our resident Tim Ben has it all for you when we return on Spaced Out Radio for the final half hour. Uncle Jimmy Goodall is here. Uncle Jimmy Goodall. What's happening? 2 days, buddy? 2 days until I leave. I am excited where I am going to go and see my dad for a couple of days and and or not for a couple days, one day at least. I'll get there and he'll be like, I already ate. All right. Well, thanks, Dad, for waiting. My dad's one of these dinner time is 4:30.
Schedule.
Oh, it's scheduled, man.
Well, he's got to take medicine, probably. So he needs
Yeah.
to regiment it out. I get it.
Oh, I get it. I get you. I get you.
Yeah. Oh man, like I said, I've been writing things and like trailing off into Vegas. In my sentence, and I'm like ...
Oh yes, my friend.
Oh my goodness, it's so funny. I'm not even a gambler. It's just so much fun, and looking forward to seeing you and the gang.
Gambler waits until I go to bed before he takes home $500 off a slot.
Yeah. All right. That was a fluke. That was a fluke.
You jerk. I was so tired.
I did videotape it.
That doesn't surprise me. That doesn't. Scrub-a-dub-dub, I agree with you. The best part of Vegas is people watching. Totally agree with that. Yep. You know what? We're not even going to see Jim Goodall all weekend because old Random Gee plans on he's totally like fanboying over Jim Goodall.
Who wouldn't?
Exactly.
Now that he knows who he is, yeah.
Hey, Eurostream, how you doing? And we know that, we're going to get like 10 minutes with Jim. And the rest of the time, like Random Gee is going to be like, screw those guys. Come hang out with me. Let's swap some stories here.
Yeah. Yeah. There'll be a lot of insider talk going on, I'm sure.
Oh, we're not even going to see it. Look, Random Gee in the chat room. Hey, Jim Goodall, I'll pick you up at Silver Bow. Yeah. See, they're making these code name things. You know what I'm saying?
I love it. Yeah. I want in on that. I love insider jokes and information. I'd love to be a part of it someday.
Yeah. Well, hey, you're closer than I am. You're Facebook friends with Random Guy. I'm not.
Am I?
Yeah, you are. He told me.
Oh, jeez. Well, look at that. I don't use Facebook. I gotta be honest.
Mr. I hate Facebook is Facebook friends with Random Guy, and I am not. I don't get the privilege.
I'm Facebook friends with so many people, but that doesn't mean anything. I don't really talk through Facebook.
Yeah, you dirty bastards. Hey, Human Carl. How you doing? Where is everyone going to be during Friday evening before the meet and greet? Probably in the main part of the casino, Human Carl. You'll find us. We're going to be in between probably the check-in and the main casino. Check-in's right by the swimming pool. You'll find us. We're easy to find. And just look for the big red-headed guy. You'll look for that Random Gee. Look for the if you see two short, bald aliens walking around, that's Tim and Dirty Fylth. Okay. You see a chunky Canadian, that's me. Right. What time? It is at upstairs in the Golden Nugget. Try and be there for about 8:30, and then we'll be upstairs for 9:00 for the VIP meet and greet.
Yeah, I just realized that I arrive at 6:40. Actually,
yeah, you're gonna have to hurry. You're gonna have to hurry. You had all that time to book a flight, and then you go and get one that brings you in the middle of the night.
No, Alaska changed it without my approval. They just that's Alaska.
It's always Alaska Airlines' fault. Yeah. Yeah. Just like you don't believe we saw a ghost at Caesar's Palace.
Oh, but that was so solid. It could have been.
Yeah.
I mean, he was definitely pale. Didn't we joke about it at the time too?
Oh yeah. Hey, River Dogma, how you doing?
Because it was odd.
Thank you to all our super chatters tonight, including Deb with 5, Cat Chaser, Spooky times 2, and the best name in YouTube, Dry Toast. Oh my goodness. Losing my voice. Here we go. Rounded third, we're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Reminder to all of you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on with the UFO report. Our big man, Tim Senor, is here prepping for Las Vegas in just a couple of short days for a second annual Spaced Out Radio fan party. Tim, we're going to be talking UFOs attacking the United States Air Force. What's this all about?
That's right. A U.S. Air Force captain has recalled a terrifying moment in which his nuclear base became, quote, under attack from a UFO. He described how guards were left frightened, screaming, and babbling by the bizarre sighting, which has been covered up for more than 50 years. So this is coming from the British it's called express.com. And so this is Robert Salas, a retired U.S. Air Force captain who was heading up the Maelstrom base in Montana back in 1967. And he and his colleagues saw 8 colored lights over the base, which was holding 10 nuclear missiles. And so Mr. Salas described how guards dashed for safety as an, quote, oval-shaped craft disarmed the nukes. In National Geographic's new series UFOs Investigating the Unknown, to be released this week, Mr. Salas told the show, "I kind of dismissed it. I even said, 'You mean like UFOs?' But after about 5 minutes later, he calls back, he is screaming. And he is screaming, quote, 'When I hung up the phone, we were under attack. We could see the lights going from green to red all across the board, meaning the missiles were inoperable. Despite the fact that a large part of the U.S. nuclear capability was wiped out during the incident, it was never investigated by authorities.' And so the staff present at the time also had to sign documents swearing them to secrecy. So 3 years after the incident, the U.S. Air Force stopped its UFO investigation, saying no reported sighting had ever posed a threat. And so Mr. Salas added that that was certainly a lie, and the subject of UFOs has been a big talk point in the states recently. And so earlier this year, the Senate Armed Services Committee on Emerging Threats and Capabilities discussed recent sightings of UFOs, including one in the Middle East. And so now we are including some of the information here that was brought forward by Robert Salas, and he's just one more whistleblower that has been brought forward with his case that took place at Maelstrom Air Force Base. And perhaps there was even some data that could be collected and connected to this incident that took place in 1967 back in Montana. Dave, it's a big one, and Robert Salas is obviously a big player in this whistleblower and witness protection that he was so pivotal on bringing forward. Kind of exciting to hear this story again. What are your thoughts on this big push?
Well, you know what? We've heard this story for 50 years. Okay, it's 50 years old, or almost 57 years old now, and here we are still debating the occurrence of it. I don't think that was a UFO attack. I think that's a little bit too harsh. I think what we could call it, I mean, I could see where the military would say we're under attack by an unknown set of craft or orbs or whatever. I could see that. I can totally understand it. But I don't think it was an attack. I think it was the phenomena letting them know we have the capability to do this. And we're going to show you. No missiles were launched. There was no laser beams coming off this spacecraft going pew, 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 taking out soldiers. Okay. Yes, this went on for a few days. But I think it was more like teasing, taunting a little bit. But no, it wasn't an attack. You're the kind of guy that would disagree with me on that. But I'm curious. Do you? Do you disagree?
Well, let's consider the facts. I mean, yes, I would absolutely feel incredibly threatened if I was part of a military team and I watched the missiles just get shut down at the same time as these lights in the sky. Knowing that there's nothing like that in our arsenal, potentially, I would go to UFO, aliens, and perhaps, have that fear. It's no surprise that that was some of the reaction that took place. Now, me personally, yeah, I think that I would have probably been one of those guys scurrying around looking for cover. But at the same rate, I would also be one of those guys that believed that this was potentially alien. This is not something that normally takes place. I wouldn't have immediately thought it was the Russians, or some of our adversaries. I would have gone to alien technology first, just because it sounds like such a bizarre story.
Oh, it's bizarre. I'm not saying it isn't bizarre, dude. It is a bizarre story. What I'm saying is I'm sitting here saying that nobody was hurt.
Right.
The UFOs didn't take anybody out. Okay.
But they took control of the facility, which, if that was an adversary, that would be considered a threat. And let's also consider potentially they were scanning the capabilities of the location. That's also, considered a threat. Now, no one may not get hurt, but they may not be even interested in the humans. They may be simply interested in the technology at that point. So I absolutely think that is, should be put in the gray box as not necessarily a threat, but, like you're saying, shows their capabilities. But if I was there at the time, yeah, I would be cleaning out my trousers.
Well, and trust me, I could see where they were. I'm not shooting down the situation, Tim. I'm not trying to downplay the situation. What I am saying is it fair to call it an attack when it wasn't? Nobody was hurt. No missiles were fired. No missiles exploded. Okay. It's like when we send out scientists to an area where there are animals, and sometimes we kill those animals for the sake of science to learn more about them. Except this time they were playing with our real big toys and they didn't launch them. They didn't explode them. They're like, okay, this is what they're doing. Yeah, this is primitive. We'll just turn them back off and let it go.
Right, but what would be next? Right? And what if there was like something else that wasn't so clear, that was kind of like you need to comply. Like you need to comply, but there was no message, like, you know what I mean? And if they didn't comply, what would be the next phase if they came back? I don't know if it would be as friendly. I don't,
But
so
they didn't. They didn't.
They just shut things down
Right.
and scanned the facility.
But here's one thing we're forgetting. I'm gonna put a little tinfoil on the side of the head here, okay? So just bear with me on this one. how many experiencers who've had real close encounters have talked about how these extraterrestrials don't want nukes here? They're tired of us destroying the planet, whether it's through potential of nuclear annihilation, whether it's through pollution, whether it's through garbage, whether it's through fossil fuels, everything. We could be just another science experiment, man. We could. Or you look at the experiencers who've had close encounters with these, and if you buy their words, and I'm not saying you have to, but if you buy their words, these aliens that are coming here, for the most part, they want us to calm our stuff down a little bit, man. We're riding at 30 seconds to midnight when we should be playing a little Bob Marley's Buffalo Soldier, and it should be about 7 p.m. when we're getting ready to party.
Right. And I understand that because perhaps human beings haven't got that elevated consciousness where they deserve technology that reaches the stars. Maybe they're not looking for competition in the sky, in the stars, for whatever reason. That message is that they're giving us, to downplay our technology and things like that. Now, some of those things are great because it's obviously nuclear waste is not healthy for our planet. That's an unarguable fact. But what their motivation for that message is to the children in, the schoolyards across the nations of our planet, or any of the messages that experiencers have where it's save the earth, batten down the hatches and get rid of technology, avoid AI, no nukes. They want us to downplay our technology. Perhaps it's because we are monkeys playing with matches at this point. And, they
Great
don't want us to play with fire. Right. And so, I do believe to an extent they want to know where we're at with things and want to make sure that we're not going to hurt ourselves. But I don't think that they're here to interfere, perhaps in any ways, if this is a real narrative, like you're saying. But I still wouldn't feel comfortable in their presence as they were scanning nukes or anything like that. I do feel like there's an element of unpredictability, and any experiencer will tell you that there's a deep element of fear, and there's something that is, even in the benevolent experiences, there's something dark still there. And that's just my take. But again, the fact that the whistleblowers are coming forward, and Mr. Salas has been very vocal comfortably. We need very loud whistleblowers with the stories that they have, so the public can at least hear it and get behind it.
Sure. I'll let you believe that. Let's move on to our final story of the night. Russian scientists going after some spheres. What's this about?
Well, you're going to love this. Yeah. Russian scientists have found tiny, quote, spheres like cosmic sperm at supposed UFO crash sites. And this is coming from George Knapp, who recently revealed that he had taken advantage of the confusion following the collapse of the Soviet Union to gain access to the secret Russian military research into UFOs. So now this is a story being brought to us by the Daily Star, but it's covering it pretty closely to the truth. And in some cases, he even managed to obtain copies of classified documents relating to the UFO phenomenon. And so George said that while officially the Soviet government dismissed reports of alien visitations as Western propaganda, behind the scenes there was a desperate attempt to gather as much information as possible about the unexplained phenomenon. And in a quote, he says, "We know that from Stalin on, they wanted to duplicate the technology to figure out how UFOs worked. And we know that they weren't necessarily ours, and they knew they weren't Russian. So they were from somewhere else. This is advanced technology. And if they could figure it out and duplicate it, well, they could beat us in terms of stealth." And so we go on and hear his opinions on some of the technology that was brought into his investigation. He also worked with biologist Yuri Simakov, who investigated the soil at alleged UFO landing sites in Russia, gathering data and conducting numerous tests. And one of those experiments involved the flies, I guess. They placed flies in a dish and put the dish over a landing site. According to Dr. Simakov, the flies went wild, buzzing and flying around. And so, most intriguing, however, was Simakov's discovery of tiny glass like balls recovered from the soil inside crop circles. And they must have been the result of the transmutation of when oxygen was converted to sodium under the influence of the UFO. And so he adds in his theory that they may be containers to carry life from one planet to another. And George explains that the impressions they made of the soil were pretty dramatic, and it doesn't look like anything that we fly. And he shared that he also had information that he had found on these little orbs, meaning that they were tiny, perfect spheres, and they were opaque, and they were sort of reddish, orangish color, and he called them cosmic sperm. He thought they were some kind of biological mechanism, some kind of seeds, and he gave me half of the world's known supply of the cosmic sperm, and George brought them back to the United States. So, Dave, pretty incredible stuff. I can go on a little bit further, but I'd love to get your take as we dive into George Knapp's theories on some of the potential history by some of the orbs and actual physical materials that he's trying to bring into the conversation of the Russian historical UFOs.
Well, the fact that they are getting these objects from radiation or whatever you want to call it, that's where it's coming from. We have to look at it. We have to take it seriously. This is what the science is about when it comes to ufology. We need that. We absolutely need that. And it needs to continue and it needs to go. I think it's a smart move. I really do. I mean, this is how it's going to add up, right? You know, I may be the wrong guy to talk to about this because I'm not nuts and bolts, but this is the type of nuts and bolts stuff that is going to help provide evidence of this phenomena, right? So whatever it takes, and no, I'm not going to turn Mr. N and B, okay, nuts and bolts, that is. But I mean, the idea that they have some progressive evidence that can be studied is a good thing. I'm surprised we have this out in public. I really am. Are you surprised it's out in public, Tim?
No, not in this day and age. Nothing surprises me on this topic. They reside in storage at the University of Nevada, and at some point they will be looked into. And George is probably the perfect gatekeeper for that at this point. But yeah, this is a win in my book, and I'm just so glad to see your support on something like this. In the past, when we've talked about recovered materials, you've been a little bit hesitant to jump on the UFO bandwagon and get into the support of that. But as you know, anytime I see potential experimentation on any kind of data or evidence, I get really excited because that is a massive stride forward, in my opinion, because those results, if made public, and even if they're, just given to Congress at this point, they should be made public. That's the kind of thing that this topic needs, just like you're saying. And that would be a massive win. Get Gary Nolan to present that to Congress with a deep understanding, or Rich Hoffman from SCU, for that matter, if he finds it mysterious and wonderful. Whatever it is, whoever needs to be at this point to have that ball brought down the road a little further, I think that's great. So I'm just stoked to get a thumbs up and something nuts and bolts from you, buddy.
Well, I would like to know, how much of this do we have?
Yeah, according to this, George was able to acquire half of the examples that they had of these little tiny perfect spheres, opaque in color. And he's kind of hoping that there'll be some kind of biological mechanism that they can decode. if you will, from that. So at some point, so they are in the hands of Dr. Thomas Hartman at the University of Nevada. So at this point, they haven't found any biological traces, but they are still going to do some more research on the theory of cosmic sperm, which is interesting. Either way, it could be debris of some sort, that is recovered from a UFO, and it could yield some information. Either way, I think it's great.
Now, do I have to restock the point that being pro-woo doesn't mean I'm anti-science?
Yeah, no, you've just kicked me a few times for being such a relier upon data. I'm just somebody that it really takes something evidentiary for me to swing that way. And you're like, come on, sometimes you just have to believe. And I'm just not that guy. I'm not somebody that will ever just believe in something. That's not how I operate as a human.
So basically, this is a victory for you that I supported this.
It's a little win. I'm pretty stoked right now. I have to admit it. You usually you struggle. You're not a NASA supporter. You don't like SETI. All the things that have been scientific historically. Here's a little taste of science. Now I'm not going to muddy those waters. I'm not going to muddy the waters.
Hold on a second here. You're so nerves here with 30 seconds to go. I'm not a fan of NASA because they lied.
Yeah.
They've lied to the public.
I just threw that in at the goal. Sorry.
Yeah, well, you just got your puck deflected, buddy. It went wide. It went into the corner. Now there's a battle for it.
And the crowd goes wild.
You got
I love
that right.
it. I love it.
You, buddy. You're the best, Tim. Thank you for another great UFO report. We very much appreciate it. If you're watching on our YouTube channel, stick around for overtime because unlike my Oilers, we can finish things off properly. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
make a mistake. We're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we got room for them too. Good night. Bring on the ghee. There's the ghee.
What
the
up?
Ghee.
Perfect timing.
What up?
That
What
buttery
up,
voice.
What up? Dude, I don't know what's going on with this.
What's the matter?
Take your phone out of your pocket. You disappeared. Unbelievable.
He's got more aliens, man.
Tech specialist.
I didn't know I had the power to remove myself. That's pretty cool.
Unbelievable, this guy.
The power I wield? Oh my gosh, you guys. This is more power than one single person should possess.
Thank you, Kim Jellin.
All right. Oh boy.
I got to say this. Kim Jellin when you see people with a nice smile, their teeth are perfect, and they just got that perfect smile going for them. Not like me that's crooked from years of hockey and having Bell's palsy. Yeah, she's got that perfect smile thing going on. Drives me nuts. Drives me absolutely nuts. It does. Anyways.
Jim Goodall said you allowed me on. How is that? I don't know, Jim. This guy's got a couple screws loose. He takes a lot of risk. I don't know what the deal is.
Does little Jimmy Goodall want to come on?
Ooh,
come on, Jim. Let's chat it up.
I'll bring Jim on.
Bring him on. He's my BFF.
Oh, you have a man crush on Jim Goodall.
Jim is the first person I actually. Never mind. But wait, hold on. I have to finish, or it's going to sound sexual. Jim is the first guy I wanted to rack his brain about some of his experiences.
Okay. I have sent Jim Goodall the link. If he chooses to join us, he could join us. But if he comes on, Random Gee, you got to come on camera.
Oh, Jesus. I'm wearing
that Astro Boy haircut of yours.
Yeah, I'm not really prepared right now. I'm wearing more of a moo at the moment, but
Jim says he's got to go to bed. The wife's forcing him to go to bed.
All right, Jim. Cool. I'll see you in 3 days.
It's going to
be good. Are you excited for us, Random Gee, to meet up with us?
Yeah, I'm making preparations right now. So,
are you making good homemade donuts and cinnamon rolls?
I don't do baked goods. I do barbecue. So barbecue or Mexican food is my specialty. Pick your poison.
Yeah, I bet you rock the fuck out of a good scone.
I grew up in Southern California. I make Mexican and I barbecue. That's what I do.
It's more like him getting prepared is like taping more pistols to the under seats of his gremlin.
Wow.
That's That's not far off from the truth there. Did you see that wicked video that came out about that guy in the ocean kayak?
Oh yeah. I saw
the
that.
Tiger shark just comes up and tries to take a bite out of the kayak. He deserved that. He totally deserved that.
It's pretty wild stuff, right?
Oh,
so
I'm gonna idiot for being there.
I reached out to Logan Paul today, just so you guys know. So we'll see what happens. I'm trying to get a hold of that video so I don't have to drive out to Rachel and talk to Chuck. So we'll see. I'm not hopeful, but it's out there in the universe right now. So it's at least on the percentage of possible now that I'll get to see that video. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, RG, if you drive, I'll navigate. How's that?
I could probably drive there with my eyes closed for some reason, but the other thing is, it was brought up earlier in chat, and since now I'm here, I will tell you, yes, I am in fact an ordained minister in Las Vegas.
Yay!
I am legally licensed to marry people. Fun fact. So
it's gonna be a fun party, isn't it? Everyone's getting married. Woohoo!
If I box him, no, I don't know. He's young and strong. He might. I'm way bigger than him. He'd probably still knock me out. He's got the youth on his side.
Who are you talking about right now?
Oh, he's talking about me boxing Logan Paul for the video. I was like, in a street fight, I would tank him, but in a boxing match, he's probably better than me. I'll be honest. I'm in my 40s. Can't hold on to my Al Bundy forever.
And by the way, Chuck would definitely say it's not in his possession anymore. He wants nothing to do with it at this point.
Oh, so it's either Fox or Logan. That's all we got left.
Well, I mean, Chuck's just not into it, so you're gonna have to.
Well, if Chuck has it, here's the thing.
He definitely isn't gonna let it go. Obviously, it's not.
I think I have a unique perspective or something to barter with, to where he may talk to me.
I do agree with you, knowing you, and you don't have to say it because I already know you can't.
Obviously,
right.
But
That is interesting. Yeah, you kind of are the
And
right
that's
guy.
and that's my angle with Logan too. So it's like, do you want the truth or you don't want the truth? Show me
Right.
the video, bro.
Yeah, you would be able to decipher it pretty quickly without even like having to break it down. Just by looking at what it looks like, you would know.
Yeah, I'm just curious if it's actually something that's ours. That's what I'm really curious about.
What year was that video supposedly originally taken?
I think 96, right? That's what I heard.
95.
So
Yeah,
95 would be something in your purview?
Yes. Yes, 100%.
That's perfect. I love that. That's great, man. You are the right guy for that.
Yes. I can pull that. I can pull that off for the benefit of SOR.
Are
I
you
won't be able to
friends?
tell you. It's going to be a trust me, bro situation, but trust me, bro.
Yeah, and I'll be there, so you'd have to trust us. Oh, and are you friends with Bob Lazar too? Did I see that at some point?
There were some weird things going on lately. Yeah.
So you two are Facebook friends. You get all this.
No, I unfriended Timmy.
Dave,
I unfriended Timmy. I unfriended him.
What does that mean? I don't know what that means.
I unfriended you. We were friends briefly, and then I unfriended you because of the controversy.
There's controversy?
Yeah, you're a controversial person to be friends with.
Am I?
So, yeah.
How? Really? Come on.
I don't know. There's some weird things.
Sounds like bollocks. Yeah,
it just sucks because I play all these. I have to wear all these hats when it comes. I have 8 social media channels.
Oh, that doesn't sound sketchy.
Yeah, right. No, I'm just saying, like, my real life is not SOR, believe it or not. So
Yes.
it's like the SOR weirdos will mess with my
weirdos. Are you calling me a weirdo right now? I take offense.
The Tem stalkers
take
will come for
offense.
me if I get too close to you. So I have to keep all
You're
of my
gonna get
social
radiation
media-
sickness if you get too close.
all of my legitimate businesses and troll accounts I have to keep separate. So
How you know what is happening in my kitchen before I do? That's what I want to know. How do you? He's like, Tim, go check on your puppy. I
Joe,
think
for
she's
the
eating your
record,
couch.
for the record, Joe, I have a smaller head than Dave. We've proven this already on the air.
By like not even a quarter inch.
Yeah, but I'm like 6 inches taller than you, dude. Like,
Love it.
oh boy,
Yeah.
this is gonna. I didn't even mention the freaking Oilers and Knights. I mean, I was just gonna leave it as a height thing.
You know what? I hope when you meet your girlfriend, she trips you and you fall and chip a tooth.
No, she's probably gonna run and jump on me. So there's the difference.
Yeah. Then you trip, hit the floor, and chip a tooth.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen. I've carried many adult men to safety. I think I can handle.
I'm glad you completed that sentence. So are we gonna talk about DARPA a little
Go ahead.
bit?
Why don't you drop that story on us, 10 bits?
Well, it's not a big drop, but it's definitely interesting. DARPA recently unveiled the X-65, and you forwarded that to me.
Right.
And I would love to get your insight on it because, boy, is it bizarre looking. And I'm wondering if you have any knowledge to any of the development and maybe some of what they hope to use this new.
Or how long has it really been flying?
Any of the above. Can you talk about the X-plane at all? Or how would you like me to present it? Should I just read this? There's not a lot here.
I think he muted himself.
So typical. He's probably giving some really meaty information right now.
Look at
right.
Joe. If
I'm
there's an outing in Vegas during the day and it's hot, everybody can hide in the shade of Dave's head.
Oh,
I love it.
Wow.
Wow. He's so perceptive.
That's hilarious, dude. No, so the only thing that I will draw attention to, I can't really comment on this. That's why I wanted you to talk about it.
Yeah.
The one thing I will point out, because it's in the article and it's not coming from me, I'm simply pointing out what is already being provided for you, is mention the part about how the control surfaces operate versus traditional aircraft.
Right.
That's the part I want you to highlight to the chat.
Okay, so the X-plane that DARPA is developing to fly without traditional exterior moving flight controls received its official designation, Crane, C-R-A-N-E, and it aims to build an experimental unscrewed aircraft that maneuvers by controlling the airflow around it. And so it's considered a revolutionary aircraft with novel effectors. So Crane
Sounds
obviously.
like you got aliens.
Well, it's very interesting that the term unscrewed is there, meaning that it's all one piece, I'm imagining, which is kind of some of the descriptions that we've had from other craft. And maneuvering by controlling the airflow around it is also interesting. And so it's still experimental, coming
Right.
from DARPA. It's called the X-plane as a nickname, and it's revealed as the X-65. I can show you guys an
So what's
image.
interesting, do you have can you pull up the photo and show everybody? But I'll tell you this.
I can
So
simply do this.
normal aircraft operate under Bernoulli's principles of lift, right? So you have an airfoil. When the air moves under it and it goes slow over the top, you gain lift. That's why the top is curved and the bottom is flat. Yeah. Okay. So what's interesting about this aircraft, per the article that I read, because that's all I'm talking about,
Coming from the Black Vault,
is that this aircraft doesn't use traditional aileron, elevator, rudder configuration. Instead, it uses the actual airframe itself to deflect airflow. It doesn't explain how, but it's able to maneuver without using traditional surfaces to manipulate airflow without using traditional Bernoulli principles of lift here. So how is it staying afloat? And what does this implicate? If this thing is 20 or 30 plus years old, which again, I'm not saying it is, just throwing out there hypothetical. Everything I say is hypothetical, random thoughts, random guy. If it's 20 or 30 years old, which you would think it would be if you're seeing it in the news, would you not understand that there is at least the potentiality the aircraft can maneuver without traditional surface control surfaces? Right?
Do you know if this is a manned craft?
I don't know anything about it personally.
Okay.
Officially.
I was just wondering because it doesn't say in the article. Experimental. I'm assuming, but I could be completely wrong that it's unmanned. However, active flow control, or AFC, is primary design consideration. Crane. Let's see if they're gonna say.
I think the safe bet going forward for everybody involved here is if you guys want to think about, and I'm not saying this is a fact, but I'm just using logic based on technology, not in any specific way, assume everything is unmanned until proven otherwise.
Well, DARPA selected the Aurora Flight Sciences for the phase 2 of the active flow control for the X-plane.
So what does that mean to you, Tim?
That means to me that knowing that the Aurora is a 50-year-old program, they used that science for the phase 2 of this control.
Are you talking about, when you say Aurora, are you talking about the alleged SR-71 replacement that was never proven other than budget line items?
Yes. And I'm also quoting the website here.
Okay, cool.
At DARPA.
Sure.
DARPA's
At least you're
website.
on the same page.
Yeah.
I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Oh, man.
So if we have an aircraft now, there's no mention of power plant. Is that correct, Tim?
Nothing about the power, no.
Okay, so we have an aircraft, potentially, if this story is accurate, that can maneuver without traditional surface controls and manipulate the airflow around it. If we were to able to come up, that's clearly something new that we haven't seen or hasn't been announced before, right? Like the craziest thing I've seen is like a Q2 back in the day, like canard configuration. Anybody that's familiar with aviation, where they basically flip-flop the elevators to the front and stuff like that. But if this is something that's new that we haven't heard of, that we know at least there's a potentiality of it because this is something that's being reported. If we were to also have a modern unknown power plant to couple with that for something that's more advanced, would that not be congruent with certain things that might be considered UFOs when sighted because they don't have traditional aircraft appearance or surfaces?
Right. I know they're using it for stability and control. In-flight would help open the design trade for space and future military and commercial applications. Do you have any idea if Mach or hypersonics were proposers with this?
I don't have any particular specific information on the thing we're talking about. I'm going purely on the article and speculating.
Copy that.
Sorry.
Times.
And of course,
But it's a great conversation. I'm enjoying it.
the logo for Crane, which is origami. I feel that's very interesting and somehow fitting.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And it says control of revolutionary aircraft with novel effectors. Crane, C-R-A-N-E. That's what it stands for.
Yes. Interesting.
Control of revolutionary aircraft with novel effectors. I love that. And so the effectors are obviously this new air control design.
Right. Meaning
Super cool.
Meaning it's not a surface control on the wing or the elevator.
They removed all jointed surfaces. That's massive. So all of the flaps and things like that are gone. Is
Correct.
that what I'm hearing? Okay.
That's what it appears to be.
Yeah, and the photograph is...
So if again,
trippy.
if we're just going down hypotheticals and we assume that anything we see is 20 or 30 years old on assumption, if they already know that they don't need something to, again, match Bernoulli's principles of lift with aileron, elevator, etc., and they had 30 years to improve upon that design with a new pulse jet / whatever type propulsion, could you not manufacture the design of an aircraft that did not look like an aircraft at all? Would that be at least plausible?
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure we're on the same page.
Very interesting. Nuggets, people. Golden nuggets. We're not just staying at the golden nugget. We're dropping them all over the place.
It's about what we're not saying, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, that's a lot of fun.
That's
Dave,
why people are not dumb. They're not dumb.
yeah. No, I was going to say, Dave, do you want to jump in on this?
I'm editing.
Oh, he's
I'm
busy.
listening to you guys
That's
because I may ask questions that might get one of the two of you uncomfortable, and I don't want to do that.
cool.
Well,
Well,
I'm not a virgin anymore, Dave.
Then you can AKA over here. Ask me anything. I'm open.
Hold on.
I can't wait till you guys get here. It's going to be such a shit show. I'm so excited.
Shit show.
I'm going to make sure I'm completely... I don't get drunk. I don't do drunk, but I'm going to make sure I'm fully buzzed.
Oh, nice. Nice. The airline that I'm flying down on in Vegas just issued 72 hours strike notice.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, which means that if by the 19th at noon or 2 o'clock Pacific time, they
might
don't
be
have
stuck.
I might be stuck in Vegas.
Hey, luckily I know a guy that has extra room for you. So
Yeah, but he's nice to me.
Taco Bell.
I know a guy that's got. I mean, you'll have to fight my kids on the weekends sometimes. But I literally just keep this place for this to see my kids.
Sweet. No, that's
But
awesome.
in any case, I got places for you guys if it goes south.
I'm okay with that. If I could be stranded anywhere, that would be the place.
Yeah, right.
Just check out some local real estate and see what I want to buy.
Right?
House up here and buy down there.
More cowbell.
No, Mothman, the airline that I am flying down on has just issued 72 hours strike notice. I fly down on the 18th, and on the 19th, they may not be flying.
Strike,
So,
strike, 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 strike.
the bitches, if there's any time to strike, it's while Dave.
As long as Taco Bell doesn't strike, Dave's happy.
Kim, 30. No, Kim, I wasn't saying it is 30 years ahead. I was using hypothetical because, the old adage that anything that comes out is 20 or 30 or more years old. That's all I was saying. I wasn't commenting specifically on this alleged aircraft.
Are you reading chat?
Yes, I always do.
When will you learn?
I just love the abuse. I can't get it. You know what? Here's the thing. I stream for my other channels. So I'm used to being interacting with chat in a normal way.
Harassed.
So the way I interact with chat here is weird as hell. But so it's just a habit. I'm used to picking up people so I can respond to them when they're talking in my chats.
Gotcha.
That's all.
Gotcha. I love
I'm
it.
actually normally good at this. I'm only shitty on this show. So because I have to wear so many hats and be weird.
Yeah, I think it's the fact that you can't figure out your camera, but you're supposed to be like a military tech specialist, just to.
Not
Sorry, was that below the belt?
Maybe I just
Notorious BS.
I sandbag a little bit here so that
it's sandbagging.
I got to keep it interesting and not let people know what I'm actually capable of. So
right.
I like
it.
If I ditched the idiot savant role too soon, then people wouldn't respect me anymore. So
and you're unemployed and you just keep the place in Vegas for your kids. No, we get it.
By the way, Tim, it's that time of the night where we say hello to all the agencies out there listening on in. We know you already have our phone number, so give us a call sometime. Say hello, and remember, certain people on this panel can be bought.
Not me. I'm not
Certain
going to jail.
People can be bought.
Who is that? Who said not me? Because
I said not me.
You already bought and paid for. What are you talking about?
Yeah, my allegiance has already been purchased with a government pension. So,
oh, the truth, how it hurts.
Keep it simple as that.
Get y'all lubed up for some truth, y'all. No, but that's beautiful. Gas up the gremlin. We're on our way.
Did you have any other stories we were going to go over tonight, Timmy?
Well, I would love to get your opinion on some of these whistleblowers that have been coming forward. Some of them are pretty historic, and so I'm not sure if this is your first time on some of them or not, but I covered a couple.
Let me ask. Sorry, Tim.
Yeah, please. No. I love it.
If you...
Wait, Dave's going to participate in his own show? This is groundbreaking. Go ahead, Dave.
Nice.
I know. Weird things happen sometimes. Would you whistleblow? If you had an experience, would you whistleblow?
That sounds hot. No. Not since this one truck stop in 98. No.
He was hitchhiking.
I really wouldn't unless I felt like I made it pretty clear. If I knew there was aliens and I knew something crazy was happening, some conspiracy that was lying to mankind, then I would tell. I really would. And that's probably why they don't tell me. But they probably ran my psych profile and they're like, we're going to tell you everything except for the aliens. But if it was a matter of mankind and I felt like there was something going on, I would make a decision where I'd risk it all. But short of that, no, I'm not telling anything ever. That's just keeping it 100.
I just tweeted WestJet. I said, woohoo, I'm about to be stranded in Las Vegas. Take your time, pilots.
Yeah, worst case scenario, you're hanging out with me. I'll take you to you like Taco Bell. I'll take you to one of the best Mexican restaurants in Vegas. You hang out an extra day.
Oh, do not get him started.
Okay, so why would you not spill the beans if you were given immunity?
Okay, immunity. Now, is this who's calling on this though? You know, like that's, so here's what you guys don't, I'm not gonna say you don't understand, but what's probably going on, because I'm not involved with it. The reason I'm so skeptical and I'm so down on these quote hearings and whistleblowers and this stuff, it's not because I don't believe in them or their testimony. It's really because it's all probably already orchestrated before you ever see a thing. They probably already role played who's going to say what. Like, I don't care how whistleblowing they are. They might be legitimate. They're like, I'm going to tell my story. And then they're going to be like, cool, he's going to tell a story. And this is what we're going to say. And this is what we're going to let be known to the public. And it's going to be all organized. So it's kind of pointless, in my opinion. That's why I don't think anything's going to actually come from it. Now, if they said, hey, we know for a fact, like if I saw some crazy alien abduction, whatever, and I 100% witnessed it myself, I could testify to it. And they're like, hey, we'd like you to come to Congress. There's a committee and they want to know about it. I'd be like, you guys sure about this? You know what's going to happen, right? But even if they gave me immunity, I'd still be like, I feel like this is a trap. I feel like you guys are just trying to see if I'm going to keep my mouth shut and then I'm going to, you know, Epstein myself or something. And like, I would always be worried about that. Like, I haven't witnessed that. And I know a lot of the conspiracy theories behind this stuff are BS. I just know. Can't tell you how. But at the end of the day, I feel like if that stuff is real, then people will probably get killed for it. So I don't know. I would have to weigh what the information I have. Was it just that I saw a UFO? Is it just that I know the aliens are real? I don't know that alone that I would risk my life and the life of my children and all that for it. I'll be honest. I don't know. If I was single, you know, and I didn't have a family and all this stuff, maybe that would be more compelling for mankind. But I would feel like there would be something sinister at risk at all times. Even if they said, no, just tell, it's kind of like your wife or your girlfriend, just tell me the truth, it'll be okay. And then you tell them the truth and it's 10 times worse than if you had kept lying. Like, I feel like it's one of those situations.
Right. I feel like there's a massive amount of bravery that takes place with anyone that comes forward. And
Absolutely.
The fact that if the whistleblowers are going to choose to be confidential and present directly in a skiff, I think that's great. If whistleblowers are going to make their story public and have it have weight, the way Salas has historically and quite a few others are coming forward now, they're coming forward in a big way and then presenting their story publicly in every venue they can. And a big portion of that, I'm sure, is for security purposes for themselves, because the more public at that point they are, the safer they are from that accidental drive, you know, that they take with no brakes.
Well, there's two parts of it. So there's two parts of this. Let's be real. There's the conspiracy of the Men in Black, government, watchdog, CIA, insert, you know, whoever, Overwatch here, that are, hey, if I step out of line, they're going to kill me, threaten me, whatever. But then don't forget, there's like at least thousands of crazy ass people in this country that might think that you're in on an alien invasion that would firebomb you, like just regular civilians that have lost their crap, right? Like, there's weird people out there that may take whatever testimony you're giving as that you're either in on it, you're covering up, you're lying, or you're part of the problem. And that's a threat to you and your family at this level. Unstable people. It only takes one, right, to do something crazy to hurt your family. And so that's absolutely part of the risk assessment, not necessarily just the government side. So you don't want people to know who you are and what you're talking about.
Right. But I do think potentially that bravery as a group will sway the opinion of Congress. And like, I mean, don't you feel like even the best outcome at this point, let's just say that they just elevate the conversation beyond the fact that some of this technology may not be ours. And maybe historically we have seen something from another world. If we could get them to admit that there's a non-human intelligence visiting the planet, not just out there in space, but visiting, that would bring the conversation to a place I think it needs to be. And then we don't need the whistleblowers anymore. We don't need all the evidence
Right.
anymore. We don't need
Well, would that
anything.
not fit, at least at the most elementary level, the purpose of what we call disclosure? And that then at that point, the individual stories no longer matter. And now we, as a collective consciousness and as a global society, take up that as a fact. And we investigate everything through that lens of knowing that it's our reality versus criticizing individuals, right?
Right. And we're still in that deciphering stage where we're not sure what is ours and what isn't, now, or at least publicly, they still are appearing to be in the we don't know what it is phase. And that is very frustrating, to have to kick them through that door. And watching Dr. Kirkpatrick stumble over, evidence and waiting for it to come to him instead of choosing aggressively what he's going to study. He just waits for stories to come to him. That's not the way that, that desk should be handled, right? And so it's a little bit frustrating, but if we kick the doors down with historical, witnesses, and then perhaps come through with, yes, even George Knapp's glass beads that were recovered in Russia, that are in the hands of a scientist in Nevada. Well, let's just put this together collectively, try to elevate the conversation to where it needs to be at this point, because it's really frustrating to watch them just fumble over this over and over and just keep discussing the mundane, where we can deal with the mundane, absolutely, but let's consider this other box and discuss it, honestly and openly, and see if we can find some real data. Let Enigma be transparent. Let the AI algorithm be transparent. Let us see what it's deciphering out. Let the public be a little bit more in on it. I think that's massively important. But I think the witnesses and the whistleblowers are going to be pivotal at this point. And I love the push. And I don't care if it's coming from Greer or from Salas or from Elizondo at this point, because it's a collective push. Everyone is kind of working in the same way. They may have different motivations and different theories on what's going on, but still evidence and whistleblowers are getting forward in front of Congress. So,
no, I'm feeling all that.
I'll let random guy, you got the final word.
Beautiful.
Vegas Golden Knights. Thank you guys for coming.
Right between the eyes. That was a rough one.
Right.
Vegas with the cup.
Thank you and good night.
You got to root for us now, though. You got to root for us. You always got to root for the team to beat you. You got to, because then it makes it at least palatable, right?
Yeah.
It is synchronicity that we're going there. All
right, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.
See you guys. Thank you tonight to Deb ×5, Cat Chaser, Spooky ×2, and Dry Toast for the amazing super chats. Timmy, thank you for a great night. Tomorrow night on the show, our final show of this week, Linda Thompson is here to talk about the UFO narrative. We'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.